Chapter 321. The dust settles, and Abby restores everyone, including herself, back to her best ability. It's clear there is still some leftover mental and physical fatigue. All 4 team members are moving slowly with sore muscles and aching bones. Lydia, approaching, previously restored by Abby after being freed from the cuffs, has her eyes wide, and an expression of pure shock and awe is plastered across her face. What happened to all of you? This. Her voice trails off as she looks at the ice sculptures before her and the burned town off in the distance. Streaks of red energy cover both of them, reminiscent of the aura that was engulfing all of the fighters moments ago. Abby replies, "It's a long story. We'll fill you in on the way back." She turns around, making eye contact with every member of the group. "Before we do anything else, we need to find out what happened to Jay." Ari points a hand toward the ashes of a burned, abandoned city. "I have a hunch if anywhere, that's where we'll find some clues." Everyone shares a few thin smiles and a few hugs with Lydia, but quickly make it to the blackened and demolished village. Everyone's excited to have successfully saved Lydia, but there's a much more important matter to focus on. Once everyone is safe and accounted for, then the team can finally relax. Over here, Abby finds the crash site first using her earth magic. After a few minutes of searching, the hot morning sun has started melting Maria's ice, but the light breeze is still pushing cold, refreshing air over to the burned site. Fisher and Ari walk over together while Abby continues to catch Lydia up to speed. Although the white-haired mage is saved, she looks awfully on edge, still looking over her shoulder at every crunch or crackle from the fallen burnt debris of the town left behind. On the way to the town, a loud crash from up above on the cliffside, followed by a rumbling, buzzing noise for a few seconds, makes everyone's head turn for a moment. However, it's just the observatory's top floor collapsing down to the first due to the severe damage done before the battle. This only makes the white-haired mage's paranoia worse. Abby's voice rings out again as she stands over the briefcase and item drops next to the shattered, uniquely black-colored armor. "I found the soul stones and the leftover gold. This is everything left in Jay's inventory." Ari comments on the odd metal scraps. "He never wore armor like that." Lydia peers around a charred woodpile, and her eyes open wide at the sight of the gear. That's the Sector 2 leader's armor, I'm positive." Tons of theories are thrown out as all 5 of the remaining members debate what could have happened. The red aura and the contents of the briefcase are even brought up, and the pile of silver-numbered pins that specifically represent ranks within the organization look just like the ones on the Sector 4 leader they fought. Fisher breaks the tiptoeing conversation with the truth of the matter. "Whatever way we look at this, there are 2 things that are clear. Jay isn't here, and neither is the Sector 2 leader. It looks like one of them must have used a self-destruct type move. That's the only way a battle like this could have ended." Everyone looks around, seeing the craters and flame marks along with an unmistakable red aura staining the air. There are a few gulps that fill the silence. However, Maria's cheerful attitude breaks the tension. "It must have been the only way. It may not be convenient, but he said he'd find us back in Solara in just over a week if anything like this were to happen. His real body will fully recover soon. I didn't think it'd come to this, but in the end the battle has been won. We took back what was taken." She holds onto Lydia's hand tighter, looking up to meet her eyes. The rest of the teammates jump in, talking over the matter and what to do next. In the end, there's only one option. Ari is the one that says it to the team. "We'll have to clear this place out, then wait for Jay in Solara. We move as a team. I have a feeling this is only the beginning. There's going to be a lot more eyes on us soon. We've been outcast and sold out by the association. They'll want to cover their tracks. Now, we've just taken out 2 of 4 Dark Continent underground sector leaders. These 2 organizations won't take it easy on us. Plus, I'm sure our actions have most likely affected many lines of business and trade in many areas of the world. Our actions the last few days have real consequences." Abby interjects. "They had it coming to them. So what?" Ari chuckles in reply, putting his hands up in a playful manner. "Hey, I'm not saying they didn't ask for it. I'm just saying we're not just basic low-level hunters anymore. We're playing a more dangerous game with even more unknown powers, many of which can't just be punched harder to defeat. We'll need to get stronger in more ways than one before a force like this challenges us head-on. There's another long pause as the group reflects on the past few days. A round of nods follows, as the seriousness of the situation stacks up more and more the longer the sun rises overhead. The discussion fizzles out, but it's decided that the only thing to do now is clean up the area, then wait out of the public eye for a week before the whole group can come up with a plan together. To Lydia, the soul stones and mention of a skill that allows one to seemingly return from the dead after just a few days is mind-bending news. But with all that's going on, Maria assures her it will make sense once fully explained. Abby places all of the assorted gear into her item box, including the soul stones and even the broken armor of the Sector 2 leader. After further rummaging, she manages to find the shattered black longsword too. Once the ice melts from the Sector 4 leader, the only item still left intact and unshattered from the ice and battle is the golden 004 pin. Ari and Fisher try clearing up the red aura that still fills the air, but despite their trial and error, nothing seems to work. During all of this, the remains of the observatory up on the cliff start to hum, and a white and gray glow comes from all the fallen debris from the previous collapse. Another loud bang echoes down into the valley as the white and gray energy expands, destroying the entire building along with a portion of the cliff. The team still exploring the burning town are a safe distance away, but the immense power of the blast still turns heads again. Maria chuckles. It was probably that equipment Jay was talking about on the top floor. It must have been damaged in our battle. Fragments of metal, rock, and debris roll down the cliff in unrecognizable shapes. Some burning with orange flames while others are covered in the grayish glow moments before it dissolves into the atmosphere. Fisher sighs. Dang, I wanted to see if there was any good leftover gear in there too. I guess we still could find some, but I doubt it's in good condition anymore. More time passes, and the area is stripped clean of any valuables or identifying items. The only thing that can be known from the site here is that a battle definitely took place, and one or more users wielded some odd crimson energy. Ares guesses it will all be covered by the abyss in the next surge anyway. So, it isn't optimal to leave the place like this, but it isn't the worst situation that could have occurred. There isn't anything more to do. The group of 5 makes their way back to Solara and finds Chester nervously waiting for them to return. Everyone is mentally and physically drained, so there's a happy greet and quick run-through of events that took place with the old man, but everyone eats and falls asleep within the hour of stepping in the door. It's only been a few hours since they left, but it feels as if the many days of fighting have finally come to an end. Knock, knock, knock. There's a light knocking on the door that evening, but the team of 5 are still sprawled out and sleeping in the living room. Chester hurriedly nudges Ari awake. He wasn't expecting any visitors, and Ari is the only one here who looks like a Solara native while being much stronger than Chester if there's any issue. If it's a government official or just an old business friend, Ari would be the least suspicious out of anyone to answer. He whispers in a low tone as the archer wakes up. There's someone at the door, and I'm not sure if I should open it. I can't see who it is. Immediately, Ari peers out one of the windows to see the setting sun. He uses his mana control to feel around the house and whispers under his breath. There is definitely someone there, but the feeling of this reading is odd. The person is strong, very strong. However, it's impossible to tell how strong they really are. He wakes everyone else up to be on guard before approaching the door, ready to summon an arrow and even activate all of his buffs again. The archer slowly opens the door. Who is it? What do you want? Confident voice responds. It's paired with a bright white smile and sharp blue eyes. My name is Lith Galehart. I'd like to come in and have a chat. Chapter 322. Level up X48. Addition new stat points, plus 377 mental strength. New skill, craftsmanship, mythic grade. Red Hydra's aura detected. Bond success. Accelerated hibernation, 56%. Accelerated hibernation, 89%. Accelerated hibernation. Success. I open my eyes to see over half a dozen blue notifications covering my vision. The sun is bright, making me squint my eyes as a cool breeze passes through my hair. I'm lying flat on my back, but when I try to sit up, a dizzy, lightheaded feeling takes over before I rest my head back down onto a glossy, cool surface. White clouds pass by on my sides, and the sound of two massive wings flapping are the only things that my senses pick up. In my mind, it feels like only a moment ago I defeated the Sector 2 leader, but to my body, it feels as if I haven't taken in sufficient nutrients or even moved a muscle in weeks. My bones ache, my mouth is dry, and my head is pounding. I need to get back to my teammates. I'm sure I defeated the immediate threat, but it's unclear how much time has passed and what happened afterward. Still, I can't let these notifications pass me by without taking a look. I finally got a crafting skill. On top of that, it's a very high grade. Even in a dazed state, I know a mythic grade skill is something I've only seen on one other status before: Embers. At the thought, another realization hits me like a brick wall as I open up my telepathy skill. Ember. I'm awake. The hibernation process is over. There's an instant response, and the slow rhythmic flapping of the wings on both sides of me starts to speed up. You're finally awake, Master. This is great to hear. It seems we've leveled up quite a bit too. You've been busy in that second body. There's a small pause, then I respond. How long was I out for? I got a notification the process ended early, but I'm not sure how early. At this, the throbbing sound of my own heartbeat in my temples only gets worse. I reach into my item storage and pull out leftover water and food from our travels through the desert. As I eat and drink while using self-regeneration, all of the aches and pains go away, but I'm still a bit disoriented. Ember responds. I'm unsure too. At least a week, 2 at most. Up in the skies, with only an unmoving artificial dungeon sun, it's difficult to tell the exact time. Understood. I take another minute to gather my thoughts. It may have been weeks to Ember since I last left him to calmly roam the skies in this dungeon. But it's only been mere minutes in my perception since I just finished up one of the most intense battles of my life. Let's head to the dungeon exit, slowly. I need some time to think. He turns his body, gliding down. The wind in my face slightly picks up, but it feels good. The calm and nonchalant attitude of Ember is always nice, but sometimes he could be perceived as a bit too calm or uninvested in situations. However, I like it this way. As long as I'm alive and we're getting stronger, he's happy to not ask questions. The simplicity of our relationship is comforting. Status open. LV. 562. My eyes immediately drift down from my updated level to my new skill. I activate my all-seeing eye for more information. Craftsmanship. Info. Craftsmanship allows the caster to mend, adjust, and create magic items. The quality of these crafted items is based on their level, mana control, and the materials used in the crafting process. Before crafting each item, the caster must choose a tier. The first tier of craftsmanship, no grade, allows the crafter to mend, adjust, and create magic items with additional stat points in one category. The second tier of craftsmanship, special grade, allows the crafter to mend, adjust, and create magic items with additional stat points in 2 categories. It also grants the caster to convert these 2 stat point categories into percentage-based buffs. The third tier of craftsmanship, legendary grade, allows the crafter to mend, adjust, and create magic items with additional stat points in 3 categories. It also grants the caster to convert these 3 stat point categories into percentage-based buffs. The caster is capable of bonding element stones to items, making unique growth-type weapons to be solely paired with a user. The fourth tier of craftsmanship, mythic grade, allows the crafter to mend, adjust, and create magic items with additional stat points in all categories. It also grants the caster to convert these stat point categories into percentage-based buffs. The caster is capable of bonding element stones to items, making unique growth-type weapons to be solely paired with a user. In addition to outside materials, the caster is able to imbue copies of any skills or properties they own or make contact with. Unique items, bonds, and materials used will vary the outcome of every crafting process. Grade, Mythic. Upgrade. My eyes move back and forth over these words for a full minute, thinking of all the possibilities there are with this skill. The Sector 2 leader's armor must have been a product of a mythic grade craft. Something that scrambles my perception skills while eating up all mana-based attacks with ease, as well as taking on demonic energy without much issue either. Just as we break through the cloud line for the trees and mountains of Wolf Dungeon below to come into view, my eyes catch hold of another exciting number on my status. Proficiency points, PP 262. First I get a mythic grade skill. Now I even have enough points to upgrade the skill I've been saving up for this whole time. I've waited a long time for this moment. A grin comes across my face, and my eyes practically glimmer as I scroll down and immediately use 250 points to click upgrade on my very first skill. Absorption. Info. This is a unique skill. Upon dealing the final killing blow to any creature, the caster has the capability to absorb its skills. Absorbed skills will be adapted to fit the caster's biology. A special grade hidden ability. After defeating opponents of considerable strength, there is a chance the caster will be able to absorb 5% of their opponent's highest stat points. This will permanently increase the caster's status. For every 5 levels that the opponent surpasses the caster's own, the probability of triggering this passive ability increases by 1%. Skills acquired using absorption will now increase in grade class up to legendary grade upon casting. Old skills already obtained by the caster can now be upgraded to a legendary grade after defeating an opponent with the same skill. After an opponent is defeated, their mana control proficiency, MCP, may be absorbed. For all opponents below 80% of the caster's level, 0.1% of MCP will be absorbed. For all opponents between 80% of the caster's level and the caster's level, 0.25% of MCP will be absorbed. For all opponents between the caster's level and 120% of the caster's level, 0.5% of MCP will be absorbed. For all opponents above 120% of the caster's level, 1% of MCP will be absorbed. There is a 5% chance that any opponent above the caster's current level will allow 1 proficiency point, PP, to be absorbed. Grade, Legendary. Upgrade. The smile on my face grows and grows as Ember touches down to the dungeon ground. The new upgrades only made possible from my last battle make the opportunity ahead feel endless. So, to make things simple, 120% of my current level just means adding 20%. If I were at level 500 and fought a level 600 or higher monster, I'd absorb 1% of their total mana control upon defeating them. In addition to this, I finally have a way to upgrade my skills faster. I won't have to only rely on 1 PP per level up. I can farm them from monsters that are at my current level or above. On top of all of this, I don't have to be cautious about absorbing no grade skills anymore. With this new perk, I'm able to upgrade skills up to legendary grade, as long as I absorb them from a newly defeated monster. I sense the exit portal nearby, and want to check out one more thing before we leave. Instead of just 1 from ranking up, there are now 2 permanent buffs in my status. One is the Emperor's Domain, and the other is the Red Hydra's Rage. I haven't yet used my Emperor's Domain because my body double wasn't ranked up when I previously attempted to use it. This is the ability that allows me to share my own skills with party members who are loyal to me within a given range. The skill is a passive one that I don't even notice is on unless I concentrate. Previously it pushed out about 10 meters on all sides. Now after the whole ordeal I just went through, it just barely touches 13. This one will take quite a while to upgrade. There's no way to level up its effectiveness at the moment other than getting stronger. Although 13 meters of range is a neat trick, it won't be very useful in battle just yet. I still have to run a few tests with my team once I get back to Solara. We make our way through a few patches of trees and finally make it to the blue swirling dungeon exit portal. I open up my item storage for Ember to get inside, but he hesitates and speaks through our link. It seems you've made another soul bond, haven't you? Chapter 323. With my white spatial magic portal slowly spinning next to the light blue humming exit portal of the dungeon, I answer Ember's question. I guess I have. Thinking about it further, the process wasn't the same and the rewards were different too. But this soul bond does feel very similar to the one Ember and I made back when he first hatched from his egg. I continue again. Is there any problem with being soul bonded to more than one entity? It's not like I can talk to the monster physically. We bonded through a soul stone. A grin forms across Ember's face. Oh, you bonded through a stone. That makes much more sense. The aura I felt link with your main body was a familiar one. Who was it? Dash. The black scaled dragon looks up into the sky, trying to remember something, but I reply before he can come to the conclusion on his own. It was a red hydra. I only bonded with one of the 7 stones. A loud laugh erupts from Ember through our link. I've never heard him speak so loudly or show this much emotion about anything. It was not the expected reaction. The surprised and confused look on my face shows this clearly. After a moment, Ember responds between chuckles. That old beast really went and got himself killed, didn't he? Well, I have to say he was one of the strongest back in my era. What ability does the bond grant? I'm curious, it has to be a good one. Again, this isn't the reaction I was expecting either. It's a stat-boosting ability. While active, all of my movements and mana-based attacks are aided by a red aura. It's called the Red Hydra's Rage. But what do you mean by the beast was killed? Back in your era? Could you explain what exactly this soul bond is? Ember's laughs finally cease, but a toothy grin is still present as he goes into detail. There are 2 types of soul bonds that can be made with certain monsters that have made it to level 1000 or higher once in their lives. Once a creature reaches this stage, another rank-up process happens and often strong monsters become immortal labyrinth guardians on the 40th, 60th, or final floor. Even after death, most are reborn or reincarnated once their energy is completely gone. I nod, piecing together his words. So, just like you were reborn as a level 1, still holding all your memories. Does that mean there are tons of immortal monsters roaming the labyrinths? No. Only a select few are chosen by the king after the second rank-up process. New members are only chosen after incredible feats. Last time I was alive, there were only 9 of us. I doubt many changes have been made in just 50 years. I interject. So, I'm bonded with you and now the Red Hydra. What's the difference between a living bond and a dead one? There are many differences between every bond, living or dead. Some grant buffs, some give instant level experience, some share attributes. It's impossible to predict, as every immortal has slightly different powers and knowledge after each rebirth. The fact that the Hydra was split into 7 parts is definitely a unique trait. He was strong enough to do so. Therefore, I'd assume there's even more to the ability once all of the stones are bonded. The only difference between a living bond and a dead bond is that the creature being bonded cannot be reborn until their soul energy is fully dispersed and free. Ember laughs again, continuing. So that means I can keep that old beast dead for as long as I'm alive. I assume there's a rivalry between these 2, but it's not one I care to pry about now. Ember seems to be having fun boasting about it to himself. I speak up again, pointing toward the portal and my spatial magic. This all makes sense, but we have a much more time-sensitive matter on our hands. Let's at least get in the sky before continuing this talk. Ember lets out a final chuckle before jumping into my item storage. I step out of the dungeon, making my way through the cave system beneath the desert from the start of our mission in the Dark Continent. It would have been much easier to dungeon walk into one of the dungeons in Solara, but for some reason the one we used earlier is not showing up in my mind's eye. The only logical explanation I have is that my body doubles are able to teleport to points where my main body has been, but my main body is not capable of teleporting to a point where a deceased double has marked. Whatever the case may be, I make it out of the cave system unnoticed and let Ember out free for us to soar high up in the sky. For the first time ever, I use my Rising Emperor's Domain hidden ability buff on Ember once we get high enough in the air. A blue text box fills my vision. Use Rising Emperor's Domain. Range 13.2 meters. Skill? Stealth. Yes. No. I click yes, and Ember is able to conceal his entire body, making him invisible while soaring through the blue sky above the desert. I'm surprised at how seamlessly it works. Now every time I look in Ember's status, stealth shows up like it was always there. In his newly ranked up form, our flight speed is even faster. We should make it to the city in no time, a few hours at most. Much quicker than our flight from here to the labyrinth break previously. This reminds me of one last question I had. Hey Ember, is it possible to wield demonic energy and mana at the same time? The memory of switching back and forth between states followed by the violent sparks fills my mind. This reaction has happened 2 times now, as well as with every enemy I defeat through the ability. Demonic energy is incredibly powerful, but dangerous and volatile at the same time. It's one of my much-needed trump cards against opponents stronger than myself, but I can't keep putting my body and life at risk just for one simple attack. Ember responds. Of course, now that you have a body double ability to test it out with, I'd be glad to train you once you're ready. It won't be easy. Ember starts to fill me in on the details, but says it's better for us to go in-depth once we're in a secluded dungeon and able to train. There are so many new abilities for me to try out soon. I'm excited to test them all. Time passes in the air, and the beginning of another sunset can be seen as the city of Solara finally comes into view. We made it here just before dusk. We touch down just outside Chester's home, and the eerie silence that fills the air along with a lack of people on my enemy detection radar inside the home are not the signs I was hoping for. Ember gets into my spatial magic portal before we get too close. Even with a ton of questions spinning through my mind, the presence of a familiar briefcase with a slowly leaking containment field can be sensed inside. It's not in my item storage, so my only guess is that it fell from my body double with all the other real physical gear upon my death. This means someone must have brought it back. I knock on the front door a few times, then decide to turn the handle once there's no response. Click. It's already unlocked. The house is in much different condition than when I was here last. Most of the magic items, paintings, and valuables are all stripped from the walls. The curtains are closed, and the smell of Chester's cooking no longer fills the air. All I see in front of me is a long wooden table with a paper note and pen. It's in Maria's handwriting, so I begin reading. Dear Jay, we're all safe and we saved Lydia. If you're reading this, come meet us in Valor City. There's a lot we didn't know about the Before I can finish reading, a slight whistling sound becomes louder and louder in my right ear. Out of instinct, I put up a pink mana barrier. The clang of a thin silver needle shattering into tiny pieces can be heard as an attack is blocked right before it hits my neck. Chapter 324. The sound of shattering metal fills the room, and my gaze turns to watch the figure of a man dressed in all black disappear from my sight and out of the open door behind me. Not so fast. I activate my all-seeing eye along with all of my stat-boosting skills to feel a surge of power greater than anything I've felt before in my base form. It's not that my mana control is stronger, it's my base stats. The recent level-ups as well as the Archdemon's Core have definitely made a noticeable difference in my awareness and capabilities. I was just careless walking in here. After seeing the note, now I'm on high alert. The outline of 3 figures comes into my mind's eye, and I pull out my wind dagger to fight. Using my flame-imbued sword would be a bit overkill for the levels I sense. LV 491, LV 477, LV 474. They move quickly and all have a stealth skill activated. The one that threw the needle attack at me and ran outside is the level 477. They're circling the house with one other teammate. The highest level, 491, is upstairs, standing still. I grit my teeth and activate my own stealth skill before running up to face the intruder. He's crouching above the top of the staircase, unable to read or see my fast movements. This team is skilled, an elite-level force in many people's eyes, but unfortunately, they're outclassed by my raw power. I release a low-powered wind slash against the unsuspecting man's chest, throwing him backward over 5 meters to hit against a wall with a horrible wound across his body before deactivating my veil of invisibility. Who are you three? What do you want from me? Speak now if you dash. I stop mid-sentence with my dagger pointed forward, as I watch the man in front of me bite down on something hard in the back of his mouth. Before I can even ask another question, he's foaming at the lips and limp on the floor. Not one to talk, I guess. Reactivating my stealth skill, I run downstairs to face the 2 others circling the house. If their partner was defeated, they may set up a trap to take out the entire house with me in it. I don't know who these people are, but I need to take them out and get some answers. The front door swings open as I zip out and catch one of them mid-stride with the same low-powered wind attack. His stealth skill deactivates and blood splatters in the sandy street as the man dressed head to toe in jet black gear and armor tumbles across the road. I airstep over to him in the blink of an eye and begin asking the same questions, but he's dead with the same white foam leaking from his mouth before I can even see his face. Fine. If you won't talk, I might as well get something out of all this. The last concealed assassin is on the other side of the home I just left, but with the level and mana control difference, it looks as if he's standing out in plain sight. I don't bother revealing myself or asking any questions this time around. I just release a full-powered slash. The enemy is cut in 2 before he realizes what hit him. Use absorption. Skill, stealth. Upgrade perk. Legendary grade. Yes. No. I choose yes without hesitating. I didn't think I'd be using my absorption's legendary perk so soon, but this is a valuable skill to use it on. A slight breeze rolls through the streets, and the sun glistens off the towers in the distance of the city as I let out a long sigh and power down my stat-boosting skills. I walk over to each of the fallen bodies and use the black flames of my advanced fire magic to incinerate them on the spot. This may be a less busy part of town, but leaving as little evidence as possible is never a bad idea. I walk back inside and read the rest of the note. Dear Jay, we're all safe and we saved Lydia. If you're reading this, come meet us in Valor City. There's a lot we didn't know about the Dark Continent. Our recent meddling has affected the power balance much more than we ever expected, and we have teamed up with the Galeheart Mercenary Guild to set things right. Once you return, meet us in Sector 1. It's time to become much stronger in more ways than one. Team Red Hydra. I chuckle at the last line, thinking it's a fitting name. The Red Hydra's aura is a power we all share. However, I am very hesitant to believe this at first sight. Even if it is in Maria's handwriting, why are they working with Lith? How did he even find them? How much time has passed? I turn my head to the briefcase underneath a small table in the back corner of the room, then open it up on the table as well. Inside, there's just one crimson stone remaining. With it is that same silver card with the Valor City Mercenary Guild address on it. I nod, thinking to myself deeply while closing the briefcase shut again. None of this makes any sense. The men outside that attacked me were too low level to be sent from the Mercenary Guild. If this is all a trap set by them after capturing my teammates, they would have sent a much stronger team to subjugate me too. After placing the note and briefcase into my inventory, I clean up the final assassin's body and head into town. Trap or not, I need to find out more information about Valor City and this mercenary guild. It's my only lead. The golden sun falls lower, closer to the horizon as I walk into town. Palm trees and shops start to line the streets, and the smell of food and drinks fill the air as the nightlife crowd rolls in. While making my stroll, my perception skills are constantly on full blast. Another sneak attack won't catch me off guard again. I could sit down at a nice restaurant for a good meal, but there's a much better place to find out information than this. An old-fashioned dungeon bar. It takes quite a while to find through all the higher class, more modern places for common city folk and businessmen in Solara, but after walking for a while, I find one that suits my taste just right. Before walking inside, I change my facial features with the conceal skill, though I doubt it'd matter much because I still wear the red hood of my cloak. Upon entering, the sound of laughter and glasses clinking is all I hear. Levels 10 to 350 all line, the wooden tables and share stories from the dungeons while getting ready for a long night of drinks and celebration. There are quests pinned to a wall behind the bar, and a middle-aged, muscular, and tall bartender who looks to be a retired hunter himself at far past level 300. I sift through my item storage beneath my cloak before sitting up at the bar, putting a silver coin on the counter. Your special, food and a drink, whatever you've got. Keep the whole silver on my tab. He takes the coin and nods. Very well, coming right up. I sit down and let out a sigh to let my gaze wander around the room, then back behind the bar to the quests. They range from just a few bronze to up to a few gold, mostly looking for mana crystals and specific item drops. Some of them are even bounties for criminals and wanted individuals. My eyes widen in shock as I gaze at the wall a bit closer. Each of my teammates' faces are displayed on posters with red X's marked over them. The word "collected" is written in the same red-colored ink underneath each one. A million thoughts start racing through my mind, then my eyes come across the final poster with the same red marks across it. The face on this collected bounty is my own. Chapter 325. Although a ton of possible negative possibilities cross my mind at first, the fact that my own poster with the bounty marked out as collected still stands on the wall makes me question the validity of the posters. I doubt they'd put up a false collection notice. It wouldn't make any sense. The odd string of logic that crosses my mind is that someone tricked the Solaran government or paid them off to get rid of our bounties. If my group is off the map, there would be a lot fewer prying eyes. While deep in thought, the bartender comes back with a steaming plate of food and a tall cold drink. He smiles while placing down the order and speaks up as I'm eyeballing the posters on the back wall. Looking to accept some quests? Or just reading for the fun of it? He chuckles while giving me a nod, then showing off a charismatic smile. I reply, No, probably not. Though I do have a question. When were these bounties all collected? Do you remember? He stares at me with a curious gaze. Just 4 days ago. Can you believe it? A full elite squad of 6 taken down by a single bounty hunter. He caught them in their sleep of all places. Makes the association look pretty bad, doesn't it? His voice carries a mocking tone, but I only smirk back to play along. If what he said is the story the city is going with, that only confirms my theory further. This is definitely a cover-up. My assumptions are leading me to believe the Galeheart Mercenary Guild owner has a lot to do with all of this. It also gives me a pretty clear idea of how fast my hibernation time was sped up. Still, I need to get more answers. I laugh with him and start to dig into my meal before taking the conversation any further. Say, what's the fastest way to get to Sector 1 from here? I need to meet a friend. The bartender continues pouring a few drinks for another customer at the other end of the bar, but turns to reply. Sector 1? You'll have to take the train outside the walls. It'll cost you a few silver at most. Ever since the surges started, the central terminal has been abandoned. He grins and looks up at the ceiling, thinking of something. Then, turns back to me and continues. Where to in Sector 1? I've only been a few times in my younger years, but I've heard it's nearly 10 times the landmass as our 4th sector here. I remember back to the first time we entered the Dark Continent. The train we rode on to get here didn't seem to be at its last stop. It would make sense for it to continue running around the entire continent. That's one possible option, but there must be more. There's a faster, more direct way to get there, right? He takes 2 tall glasses of brightly colored mixed drinks to a couple at the other end of the bar, then comes back to answer. Sure, if you don't want to spend a few days or even a week of travel time, I'm sure you could pay the Solaran government office a visit. They have some transport crystals available for sale, but they're far too pricey for the normal citizen to buy. I raise an eyebrow. How much? He shrugs while taking another person's order. Depends on the season and how high in demand they are. Usually no less than 10 gold for a one-way trip, but considering all the tension lately, I wouldn't be surprised if that price tripled or possibly more. I wince at the prices, considering I just spent a small fortune at the auction. It was well worth it, but burned all of my cash in one purchase. Right now, I don't have more than a dozen gold left over on me. It's more than enough to live off for a long time, but I'm sure a day or two of farming could net me enough to build up my stash again, plus have enough to buy a transport crystal to Solara. On second thought, I will take on a few of those quests. He smirks, pointing at some of the newer-looking posters. I knew you'd come around to it. It's that look in your eyes. A man can't hide his ambitions from another man's gaze. What level are you at? I'll pick out the best ones for you. I pause but take a sip of my drink to think in the brief moment of silence. Even white out the transport crystal in mind, building up my gold storages would be a smart thing to do. It never hurts to have more cash on hand. Whatever your top quests are, I'd like to buy that transport crystal soon. So, the highest gold in the shortest time. The difficulty doesn't matter. The bartender soon turns around with a pile of papers, all with recommended level ratings on them, outlining the monsters that drop each item, their apparent drop rate, and finally, the total payout on each of them. He speaks up again as I continue sifting through the papers. Here's a copy of all the quests recommended for level 200 and above. They'll get you the cash you're looking for in no time. Back in my prime, I remember profiting a few gold every month off quests like these. Once you've collected the recommended materials, you can bring them back here to the bar. It's much less crowded in the morning hours, so I recommend coming then. He points to the far side of the long room. There's another counter, flooded with even more papers and quests. Either me or one of the newer recruits will be on duty. Most of the mana crystal quests and higher-ranking monster drops are backed by the city, so bring as much loot in as you'd like. As long as it meets the quest requirements, we can pay in full. I look up from the papers, giving him a nod. All right, if you say so. Don't say I didn't warn you when I clear you guys out of gold. He cracks a smile, and we both laugh at my remark while I finish my food. The bartender thinks I'm just joking around, but I'm speaking the truth. After finishing my meal and allowing my poison resistance perk of my self-regeneration skill to negate the effects of my drink, I make my way back to the dungeon hub with a few things on my mind. I'm hoping to multitask while I farm materials. By multitask, I mean I'd like to get some extra training in while collecting the loot dropped from these low-level mobs. What better way to do so than allow Ember to teach me how to wield demonic energy? To make sure there's a source to replenish my stores, I wait outside the outer ring of the dungeon hub square, intermittently turning my demonic energy manipulation skill on and off to wait for a unit or two to show up. The moment one finally does, I pinpoint the dungeon where it leaks from and check it out. There's at least one or more quests for every high-level dungeon here, so I'm in luck. It happens to be one of the level 250 to 300 dungeons. The guard gives me a peculiar warning after I show him my concealed and edited status. Careful not to go too far northwest from the entrance. There have been some unusual disappearances from squads in that direction. I reply but don't bat an eye. Understood. Then, walk down the shielded steps and enter the dungeon. It's very familiar to one of my old training grounds back in Vice City, a Minotaur dungeon. There's multiple quests requesting Minotaur horns from the mutants in this dungeon. Apparently, only one of 20 mobs are mutants, and just one of 10 drop a horn after defeat on average. That means only 0.5% of monsters I encounter will drop what I'm looking for. This is a low drop rate, but for the multiple gold being offered for just 1 to 3 horns per quest posting, it's one of the most alluring offers to take. With flat ground and minimal patches of trees, I do a scan of enemy detection and inspect to make sure no other hunters are present before opening my spatial magic to let Ember come out. Once he does, we fly deep into the dungeon, directly in the direction the guard warned us about. It's where the demonic energy is pulsing the strongest. Although there isn't nearly as much as the Abyss, it will be just enough to train with. Chapter 326. We make it to a clearing in the dungeon where the grass-covered, rocky ground flattens out, and a small source of demonic energy can be sensed nearby. It's releasing 1 or 2 units every few minutes, and the raw energy is floating high into the dungeon sky. Some are dissolving into the open air, and other portions are floating toward the exit portal. Still, over a kilometer away from the source, I'm confident the natural output will be enough to begin my training. I look toward Ember and whisper under my breath. Body double. A second copy is created to look exactly like myself. The only difference is one is slightly weaker and if killed won't affect my main body at all. Last time I did this, my main body was unconscious moments later. This time around, it does feel a bit odd looking myself in the eyes. To make things even weirder, I can't simultaneously see what my double sees. The copy of myself in front of me opens his status, opens his eyes wide, and looks up to me to speak with my own voice. It looks like the body double has a different ranked up perk. I'm going to test it out. Before I reply, the doubled version of myself airsteps away nearly 100 meters before glowing in a bright white light. The double's movement speed increases drastically for a matter of seconds. Then a flash of mana and a loud twang erupts from where they once were, blowing an enormous hole in the side of a nearby rocky hill. A blue text notification pops up in my vision. You have died. A flood of memories from the last 30 seconds fills my mind, as I feel as if I myself lived them. The vision of opening my status and seeing a brand new ranked perk on the double status screen labeled Instant Finale. The sensation of every ounce of mana being used up in a matter of seconds, propelling the double's movement speed faster and faster until it explodes in a devastating self-destruct attack, is fascinating and unexpected. This adds an interesting move to my arsenal but also confirms my theory that rank-up rewards are very dependent on the user's current circumstances and state of mind. The fact that my double's rank-up process occurred during a similar attack can't be a mere coincidence. On another note, the notification will allow me to be notified and send another body double every time my current double fails in its process. At the same time, every failed attempt will fill my mind with the exact memories of what happened just like I was there doing it myself. I smirk and look up to Ember. Perfect. Are you ready to train? Of course. I create another double, then leave the Midnight Dagger behind before air-stepping off into the dungeon to start my Minotaur farming. There were a few possible monster targets I saw on the way here, and luckily flying on Ember's back I've already set dungeon walker points all over. I teleport to my first target and cut them down in a single slash. A blue text box appears in front of my vision. Use absorption. MCP. 7,281. Yes. No. I grin, accepting the 0.01% mana control from defeating a mob below 80% of my level, and carry on. If it weren't for my new legendary perk that absorbs small amounts of all opponents' mana control, I wouldn't bother fighting anything in here that isn't a mutant. However, if I'll have to sift through hundreds of monsters, possibly thousands to farm what I'm looking for, there's no reason not to kill and absorb everything in sight. It will be great practice for farming higher-tier mobs later. I look down at nearly a dozen Minotaur-related quests, asking between 1 to 3 horns each, and get to work. Use absorption. MCP. 7,984. Yes. No. Use absorption. MCP. 8,006. Yes. No. Use absorption. MCP. 7,490. Yes. No. Meanwhile, back with Ember, another stream of consciousness is beginning training. I've only met a few archdemons that could wield demonic energy flawlessly through their cores while producing mana-based attacks simultaneously. It's possible at your level, but will be difficult. So don't expect things to work out on the first try, or even the 10th try, or even 100th. This may be a long process. First things first, I'd like to witness the proficiency of your attack. I sit down and take in a few units of energy from the air before showing off a few of my attacks. The first few are just basic control from my fingertips like I used to free myself from the underground prison, and the second style is imbuing the Black Dagger as well as powering up my movements and steps to access more speed while running and lunging to practice moves. Afterward, I recall the events of each and every time I've used demonic energy. From training in the Abyss to defeating the sector leader, I account for everything, not leaving a single detail out. Ember gives a nod of approval. Very good. You've mastered the basic demonic energy techniques on your own in a short amount of time. Even with a manipulation skill, your speed and precision are impressive for a mana-born user. I raise an eyebrow at the use of that term again. A mana-born user? I've heard someone say this before. What's it even mean? Are all monsters not born from mana? Are the monsters in the abyss really that different? Ember replies, yes, there's a very big difference. Those born from mana can only wield mana until they're proficient enough to feel and wield the energy around them with pristine focus down to the individual particles. Most mana-born users hit this breakthrough point somewhere around level 350 to 550. Once someone can wield mana, technically they're able to wield demonic energy too if they can perceive it. The same goes for demonic monsters and beings born from that realm. Not until they're proficient enough in their own domain are they possibly able to wield more than one energy source. I nod, tightening my lips. Okay, so then once someone like me hits this threshold, how can they possibly learn to wield both at once? Every time I try, well, you've seen what happens. Ember nods slowly, but I continue to speak. Demonic energy is a great weapon against mana-based opponents, but my speed and power are very lacking when I can't use my mana-based buffs and gear. I'm sure mana would also be an excellent attack against demonic monsters too, but when wielding mana I can't even perceive demonic beasts. Ember finally replies, yes, this is a common problem in the beginner stages. One of the reasons demons are chosen to protect labyrinths is that they're the most likely creature to wield both mana and demonic energy with the help of their cores. Other high-tier beasts are capable or manipulating demonic energy, but even one slip-up while practicing and the one wielding is dead. So, it's very rare to see anything other than a demon wield both at once. The black-scaled dragon closes his eyes and glows red. His entire body shimmers in a crimson aura. Then he raises a single clawed hand. The aura around it completely changes, shifting to a dark red, then finally jet black. I activate my demonic energy skill to witness many units from the source fly toward us, and they all begin swirling right above the claws of the dragon. He turns his head, letting out a pillar of flames on a nearby tree, then shooting a black ball of energy in the same direction. They collide and both erupt into an incredible display of sparks and flames, decimating the tree, not leaving a single flame or piece of wood remaining. My eyes stay open wide and I look back and forth at the scene I just witnessed. Ember powers down his skills. By the time we finish training, I believe you'll be able to do something just like this. Chapter 327. As you know, there's a large difference between raw demonic energy and refined demonic energy. Raw demonic energy is similar to the ambient mana around us in the air. It has the potential to be used as an attack but won't react or be easily manipulated unless compacted and filtered by the caster. I nod slowly as Ember continues to talk. There are two ways of doing this. Two that you're already capable of, but only one that you use. The first is filtering energy through a demon's core, and the second is naturally refining energy in your body. Demonic monsters refine energy since the day they're spawned. This is why you most likely sense their raw energy from a distance. Unless this energy is refined, it's as harmless as being struck by a gust of wind filled with thick mana. The air may feel heavy, but no harm is done. I finally reply, understood. Now how exactly is this related to the training? Ember starts to glow red again, raising one talon-covered claw in the air, shifting it to jet black in an instant. I'm telling you this because for some beasts it may be instinctual, but you will have to learn the process of splitting your energy focus manually. Considering the events where you switched your control back and forth to defeat a sector leader, you're on the right track. I raise an eyebrow. It can't just be as simple as swapping back and forth faster than the eye can see. That would be pointless and dangerous to try with my main body. Ember chuckles, releasing another plume of flames from his mouth and throwing the ball of darkness with it to display another explosion of sparks. Following this, he sends out another plume of flames and ball of darkness seconds later. Then, once the second barrage hits, he sends another. Then, another. He sends balls of darkness and pillars of flames back and forth at the same charred tree until it's completely gone, and he's made his point. No, of course, it's not that simple, but it's a good start. The act of switching back and forth needs to be second nature, closer to instinctual muscle memory before we can begin to concentrate on wielding it on a concentrated specific body part. I scrunch my eyebrows, beginning to grasp the odd training method. Ember's words make sense. Every time I swap back and forth, I do have to adjust my body and mind each time. It's far from being ingrained as muscle memory. Got it. Let's begin. Ember points to a fresh tree nearby. To start off, we'll just be using energy, no swords or special moves. Demonic energy from your left hand and pure mana from your right. I want to see 30 attacks from each hand in under a minute, similar to the attack I just performed. You have 3 hours to complete this portion of training. There's no secret tricks or specific techniques to use. You just have to practice and get used to it before we get to the hard part. I nod and begin taking in the demonic energy from the source to build up enough for this first trial. Meanwhile, use absorption. MCP 7014. Yes. No. Use absorption. MCP 7756. Yes. No. Use absorption. MCP 11685. Yes. No. It only took me just over 15 minutes to find a mutant that drops a horn. 1 down, a few dozen to go. In total, the available quests for Minotaur horns are asking for about 25 horns. Outside, the sun is setting, and there aren't any other hunters in this dungeon with me. If I hand everything in tomorrow morning, all of the quests are as good as mine. While I'm at it, 25 Minotaur horns mean I'll be farming thousands of mobs. I'm absorbing minimal MP from the crystals I gather from drops, and the more I teleport around and airstep to new monsters, the more vast my dungeon walker range becomes. I collect these crystals in my item storage too. The time lag between the mobs dissolving and the actual kill is a bit of a time suck, but I go around and collect all of the drops after defeating every few dozen mobs to make it as optimized as possible. There are quite a few quests for raw mana crystals. Although the price varies per quest and is far below the usual market price, I'll be able to get a similar amount of gold from the mana as I do the horns. On top of all of this, every few defeated opponents give me a minuscule boost in mana control. Each individual monster may not give me much, but they will make a fairly noticeable difference over time. You have died. You have died. You have died. Every 10 to 20 minutes, I absorb enough demonic energy to attempt Ember's test, but switching 60 times in just 60 seconds is much harder than it seems. I push through the pain and allow the sparks that build up in my wrists, shoulders, and chest to grow across my body to engulf me every attempt, continuing to switch back and forth through the certain demise. You have died. You have died. You have died. Each time, new memories of my attempts flood back to my main body, and my understanding of the training becomes clearer. Each time, I spawn a new body double and they teleport back to where Ember is waiting to continue. As well as the swaps between demonic energy and mana control becoming a bit more natural, the fact that my body doubles are being destroyed in front of my eyes is not much of a big deal either. At first, it was jarring to die and trust that it's not really the end. Something in the back of my mind questioned it the first few times. However, as I carry on, the ease of destroying a body double of the sake of progression gets easier and easier. You have died. You have died. You have died. By the 10th attempt, I've learned to use less demonic energy per attack, limiting the output to fractions of a unit for the sake of the exercise. It allows me to retry every few minutes. At first, the constant swap back and forth felt more tiring and disorienting than anything else, but now after a few hundred swaps and almost a dozen body double deaths, the transition is feeling much smoother. Unfortunately, every time I use a mana-based attack, my whole body flares up with energy, so no matter where I push the demonic energy, it still reacts every time while I'm switching back and forth at such fast speeds. However, not starting the reaction is not part of this training exercise. Just speed and usability is what I'm aiming for. So this is what I focus on. Just under 3 hours pass and I've conquered the entire Minotaur dungeon. About halfway through my farming, I collect more than enough crystals to fulfill the mana quests, so I focused on mutants only for the remaining hour. Every 10 or so drop a Minotaur horn, so I only have to farm 150 more to complete all the Minotaur quests as well. Along with all of these drops, a few hundred swords and axes drop too. They're all 200-400 plus additional strength buffs. Worthless to me, but it won't hurt to ask if anyone wants to buy them while handing in my other quests. After placing all these items in my storage, I take a look at a handful of other quests. There's only 2 other dungeons of comparable rewards, the Steel Tortoise Dungeon and the Giant Rats. There's half a dozen quests for tortoise shells in asks of 2 to 10. 36 are needed in total and pay out similarly to the Minotaur horns. Apparently, they're high defensive buffs used for crafting. The drop rate is about 1 in every 50, and it's a very stable dungeon. There aren't usually any mutants, so this ask is just for the normal mobs. This is a new type of dungeon with a monster I've never fought before. I'm looking forward to seeing if they have any interesting skills for me to absorb while farming. The giant rat quests ask for their claws. The drop rate is 1 in 20 mobs, and there are 3 quests asking for 200 to 450 claws each. Each pays out just under a dozen gold per 200 claws. Rats are low-level mobs, usually below LV 150, and they travel in packs. This should be a breeze. I done Egon walk back to Ember to let him know the plan. Once inside these other dungeons, I'll be able to move freely between all 3. Simultaneously, my body double dies on a nearby hill in a flash of white and golden light. I form another to replace it and Ember replies, "Perfect timing. Your 3 hours are up. Let's see how well the practice is going so far." Chapter 328. I stand back with Ember to watch my body double attempt to complete the 30 demonic energy attacks and 30 mana-based attacks in just 60 seconds. With a minute on the clock, I watch the small streams of dark black demonic energy, as well as pure pink mana, both collide to erupt into sparks against a nearby tree. Just fractions of a unit are used in each projectile, and a few dozen MP at most per mana-based attack. The swaps back and forth are almost seamless. From an outside perspective, it almost looks as if the 2 attacks are being thrown simultaneously. But of course, at closer inspection, I can tell there is a switch being made every second. The gold and white lights engulf my double, expanding from the arms and chest until it takes over entirely. You have died. The memories of the test fill my mind, and I smirk while turning to Ember. 66 swaps, that was 33 attacks from each hand. I passed. Ember nods slowly. Very good. Now we'll move on to the next portion of training. Concentrating your energy to a single portion of the body. Once this is mastered, you'll be able to launch multiple attacks without even having to switch. Both mana and demonic energy will be able to be wielded at once. This shouldn't take more than 3 hours at your rate of improvement. With enough practice it'll click. I acknowledge this claim and make another body double before leaving the dungeon to go farm the other quests. After paying a guard and asking around, I enter a LV 100-150 dungeon and a level 300 to 350 dungeon to make dungeon walker points on both of them and begin my hunting. One of them is a giant rat dungeon, while the other one is a steel tortoise dungeon. The rat dungeon is similar to the other old rat dungeons I've been in before, with rolling hills of dark-colored dirt and eerie gray skies above. It feels very familiar. The scratching sounds of dozens of claws come over the hills in packs, and the horrific odor comes along with it too. In the past, I'd be disgusted, but right now it just sounds and smells like money to me. With a grin across my face, I begin obliterating packs of rats with advanced fire magic slashes while air-stepping and teleporting across the dungeon. Use absorption. MCP 1016. Yes. No. Use absorption. MCP 842. Yes. No. Use absorption. MCP 909. Yes. No. The mana control absorption is incredibly low, but the pure crystals they leave behind I collect to put in my storage for an emergency later. Having extra mana in my storage leftover for potential fights outside of the mana-rich dungeons is a smart thing to stock up on while I have the chance. Each group of rats drops 1 to 2 claws on average. It will be a slow grind, but a profitable one. After creating a few body doubles to send back to Ember and collecting a few hundred rat claws, I decide to take a breather and test out the tortoise dungeon too. The landscape inside is very different than any dungeons I've been to before. The ground consists of chalky red-colored dirt and similarly crimson-colored shrubbery growing from it. Above these, there are short but thick trees every few dozen meters that go on as far as the eye can see. Large rock formations and boulders obstruct the flat land, but other than that it looks like a flat clay desert. I airstep in to explore and set more dungeon walker points, soon finding the native monster, a steel tortoise. It looks like a normal tortoise, just enormous in size. Standing on 4 sturdy legs, it's almost 5 meters long nose to tail. The only thing that gives away why the locals may call it this is its single skill at the bottom of its status. Body hardening, legendary grade. As I get closer, its shell shifts from the desert-colored reddish-brown to a shimmering silver, producing a slight white aura around it, almost as if the creatures are on the verge of unlocking their potential to wield mana control. Nevertheless, I swing my blade across my body to let out a single fiery strike and cut the monster in two. I'm not using my full power, but the slash leaves a deep slit in the rocky ground after the mana crescent goes all the way through. Use absorption. MCP 15,336. Yes. No. Use absorption. Skill body hardening. Upgrade, legendary grade. Yes. No. I choose yes on both before moving on deeper into the dungeon. In the past few hours, after upgrading my absorption skill, I've already obtained 2 new legendary grade skills. Stealth and body hardening. On top of that, millions of MCP are being absorbed with ease. By the time morning hits, I may even be proficient in demonic energy manipulation. However, a thought resurfaces in the back of my mind as I airstep across the desert sky while looking for another tortoise to defeat. My new crafting skill. I wonder how exactly it works. The moment my mind thinks of the skill, a blue text window pops up in my vision. Use craftsmanship. Mythic grade. New or upgrade. I raise an eyebrow and click new just for the sake of my own curiosity. Raw base material. None. Item type. Eowyn. Raw imbuement material. None. Skill or special attribute imbuement. See available. Bonding ingredients. None. Stat bonus. None. Name. Input name. Complete. Yes. No. My eyes shift up and down the menus provided. I even take out a few old items from my spatial magic to begin testing to see what all of the labels mean. I'm able to place all kinds of raw dungeon materials into the raw base material slot. This includes the horn of the behemoth I've been saving, the minotaur horns I just farmed, and even old weapons and item drops. They can be repurposed into base materials to begin a new craft. All of the possible options for a craft show up in the item type menu once a single base material is added. Next, the imbuement materials. I'm able to put the leftover firestones from the volcanic salamander break in my inventory into this slot, and can even stack multiple of them. I already have a sword with a fire aspect, so there's no reason to waste these on a new craft. Once I click into skill or special attribute imbuement, my entire skill list pops up, allowing me to attach the properties of my skills into whatever item I'm crafting. I choose one, and all of the other attributes become grayed out. So it seems only one attribute can be imbued at a time. Even a mythic grade skill has its limits. Then, for bonding ingredients, the only thing that shows once clicked in is 0/500 ml. In my previous crafts, Bree back in the Vice region always needed a portion of my blood. This makes sense. Nothing shows up in the stat bonus section. This may only show results once the crafting process begins. Lastly, name is self-explanatory. I can name whatever I craft anything I'd like. With a tightened gaze, I switch over to upgrade instead. A similar status shows up. Upgrade item. None. Additional raw imbuement material. None. Additional skill or special attribute imbuement. See available. Stat bonus. None. Complete. Yes. No. Immediately, this gives me an idea as I place my Flame Emperor's sword into the upgrade item slot. The moment I do, the additional skill or special attribute imbuement goes from lit up to dull. So if an item already has a special attribute like the fire aspect, and I can't add any additional ones. With a nod, I start sifting through my items to see what can be placed in the soul slot remaining. My eyes widen once I attempt adding a firestone to the sword. The slot changes to additional raw imbuement material, Firestone 1X, but it continues to glow, signaling there's more room for additional items. The more I place in, the higher the number climbs. I add over half a dozen stones, even the larger boss's stone, before looking down at the stat bonus tab with wide eyes. Before thinking twice, I choose yes to complete the transaction, and a series of notifications fill my vision. The firestones dissolve into the sword in a flash of white light, and I'm left in awe. The Flame Emperor's sword has been upgraded. Fire Aspect Dash Advanced Fire Aspect. Additional 29% strength buff added. Additional 26% mental strength buff added. New stat bonus added. Plus 100% defense. Plus 100% speed. Plus 100% agility. The long black sword in my hands glows red hot as a black and deep red aura slowly fades from it, and the blue text notifications leave my vision. All I see are its improved stats. The Flame Emperor's sword, Advanced Fire Aspect, plus 188% strength, plus 152% mental strength, plus 100% defense, plus 100% speed, plus 100% agility. Another steel tortoise comes into my line of sight moments later, and I cut it down with ease from the sky. However, still using the same powered-down strength I was using before to hunt these low-level mobs. The size of the black crescent that erupts from my blade is over 3 times its normal size. This leaves a crater in the ground larger than anything my full-powered attacks have ever produced previously. Black flames flicker, burning away dungeon mass, slowly making the crater even wider even after the attack. Grinning while collecting the MCP and twirling the blade in my hand, I continue air-stepping forward to find more mobs to farm. One of the top things on my mind are the possibilities of new items I can craft if I find even better materials in the future. I'll definitely have to go farming in a labyrinth or higher-grade dungeons once I find my team and get the chance. Meanwhile, after a few hours of farming and training pass back in the Minotaur dungeon, I throw a line of demonic energy out from my fingertips, while the pink light of a pure mana blade comes from my right hand. Ember speaks up to my body double once they collide and erupt into an explosion similar to the one he showed me earlier as a reference. You catch on quick. Over 10 successful attacks in a row without a single negative reaction. Pick up that dagger and one of your swords. This will be the last stage of training, imbuing weapons and fighting real monsters. I think it's time you test this new ability on a few fast-moving targets. If you can manage to fight the Minotaurs here with ease, I say we venture out to the demonic energy source. You may be surprised at what you find. Chapter 329. The next 3 hours of training pass, bringing this session deep into the middle of the night. My real body has just finished up the Steel Tortoise and Giant Rat quests, and has moved onto some of the lower-level dungeons with easier tasks for lower rewards. There aren't many left now, so I might as well try to speedrun the rest of the quest papers I took with me before the sun comes up. Each one will net me a few more gold, so even if it seems like mindless farming, in the end, it's worth the effort. Back in the Minotaur dungeon, I get ready to test out my technique with a dagger in my left hand and a copy of my newly powered-up Flame Emperor's sword in the other. Ember speaks up as we begin venturing further into the dungeon to find a group of Minotaurs to hunt. I'd like to see 100 kills in a row. Then we can go check out the rift. Ember's wording of a so-called rift instead of just the source he called it before does raise some interest in my mind. But I decide to focus on the task he's given me first. With a tight grip on both weapons, my mind is absorbed in the mission ahead. Over the last 6 hours, the process of using both demonic energy and mana has become much different than before. Previously, trying to activate both at once would be as impossible as attempting to ride a bike for the first time balancing on a thin tightrope across a kilometer-wide canyon. Although it was possible for me to brute force my way across this canyon with the metaphorical bike in my hands and disregarding the tightrope entirely. Learning how to systematically succeed in this task by mastering each step drastically improved my capabilities. Learning to ride the bike is the first step, That is just like the action of switching the energy sources back and forth. Then, focusing these sources of energy in certain portions of my body is like balancing atop a wire. It took lots of focus, but with my manipulation skills in both mana and demonic energy, this process was expedited. Putting both together is the final step. It's like moving forward while balancing on that thin wire. With enough practice, it will be as easy as breathing. As long as I leave the process to my subconscious mind and only focus on the energy itself, it is possible to feel and separate the sources. My left eye, arm, and singular pathway leading from my demon's core are able to focus on channeling and visualizing demonic energy, while the rest of my body continues to wield mana. This keeps my buffs active, while allowing me to wield the Midnight Dagger and see both sources in split vision. It took many failures before it was possible to not accidentally intertwine the two. Isolating the demonic energy to just a portion of my body and a fraction of my mind is the key. The less I think about it and let the energy flow just like it did while training, the more successful each attempt becomes. Putting these two talents of focus and balance together, it's now time to put it into action. Let's go fight some monsters. I airstep forward with my black dagger coated in purple and black aura, while my sword glows dark red with flickering black flames glistening around its sides. Even though it's not the real version of the Flame Emperor's sword, the upgraded power still emanates from it at 90% of its base stats. The first Minotaur comes into sight, and I swing my sword from a distance. A wave of flames splits it in two. Use Absorption. MCP. 7,929. Yes. No. A window to absorb the monster's MCP shows up following its demise, but once I accept it, the notifications that follow are surprising. Attempting MCP transfer to main body. MCP transfer to main body. Failed. Still, the usual mana crystal drops once its body dissolves. Moments later, I turn to airstep toward another, as the commotion makes nearby mobs charge in my direction. I airstep up close and slash the beast with the Midnight Dagger, and it tears through the mana-based flesh like butter. A violent explosion of sparks erupts from the wound, and it's annihilated in an instant. Unlike the previous mob, not a single crystal or item drops once it's defeated. However, the MCP absorption window still shows up. Use Absorption. MCP. 7,304. Yes. No. After choosing yes, I'm struck with the same messages. Attempting MCP transfer to main body. MCP transfer to main body. Failed. My thoughts begin to race as I continue practicing with my dagger and sword for a few hours all throughout the Minotaur dungeon. It seems training in my body double comes with its own set of odd rules and boundaries. As tested previously multiple times, I'm able to kill monsters at a higher level than myself, and the levels gain transfer to my main body. Skills and buffs gained in my body double form are able to transfer over as well, but after the tests carried out here, it seems like mana control is not transferred over. There may be more conditions I need to meet, but for right now it seems to be impossible. The last thing I've noticed is that every time I take out a monster using demonic energy, I'm still able to use my absorption skills on them post-death even if the body is completely gone, but there's a near zero chance of them dropping any mana crystals or physical items. They all seem to be eaten up in the reaction of sparks and destroyed with the body itself. This has been a very enlightening training session so far. I only had a few slip-ups where a new body double had to be sent over and continue the training, but now it's starting to feel very natural. I'm still not confident enough to try this method with my main body, but a lot of progress has been made. I grin and yell out to Ember as I slice the final Minotaur in two. 100. There we go, 100 in a row without messing up. The black-scaled dragon comes over, flapping his wings with a grin across his face, then points back in the direction to where we started training. Very nice. Then I think we have one last thing to do before leaving this dungeon. It's time to get rid of that rift. Although it's a great source of energy for training, I don't think leaving one around in a dungeon without any guardians nearby is a safe idea. This could cause quite the incident. I raise an eyebrow at this, being the second time I've heard the word rift today, this time with a much clearer and focused mind. The rift. My gaze points toward Ember, then up to the sky as I try to think about when other than today I've heard this term being used before. I murmur under my breath. The rift? Where have I? Oh dash. An ominous feeling washes over me as I realize exactly when I've heard this term before. Titans? Are there titans in this dungeon? Or void creepers? Whatever you call them. My heart skips a beat as I remember back to my experience in the Great Plains. We never actually went to the source, so I'm not sure where these beings came from. Although, the one thing I do remember is Ember telling me that titans were the weakest of all these creatures. Ember chuckles at my paranoia and replies, No, I doubt there are any of those mana-hungry void creepers around here. Although, the rift will be checking out works in a similar way. I immediately let out a sigh of relief at these words, then raise an eyebrow moments later. A similar way? How so? Explain. Rifts are the term used for gates to other worlds. Just like the titans come from their own small pocket of mana-dense space. Many demonic creatures spawn from pockets of demonic energy in the demonic world. My eyes widen, but Ember continues. It's like a dungeon portal, but into a demonic realm. The demon you defeated that ran the labyrinth around the city must have opened it up for some reason. It takes an immense amount of demonic energy and permission from the king to do so. Ember shrugs, thinking to himself for a moment before finishing his thought. Or not. This rift could be a coincidence. With all the demonic energy nearby from the abyss, there is a chance it could be a natural phenomenon. It's hard to tell. All I know is if it's not dealt with, this could end very poorly. Demonic rifts are far more unstable than dungeons, so if left to its own means a break will surely take over this dungeon given enough time. I nod slowly to myself, then power down all my buffs and place a hand on Ember's back before dungeon walking back to the spot where we first started this training. A dungeon, but with demonic monsters? So like a pocket dimension with a landscape similar to the abyss? I'm interested to see what a demonic realm actually looks like. The two of us begin flying in the direction of the rift. Chapter 330. The closer I get to the rift, the more demonic energy fills the air nearby. It's all coming from a single area near the furthest point in the dungeon where the guard previously warned me not to enter. Even the minotaurs steer clear of this area, and the lush green grass doesn't glow as bright. The closer we get to the source, the more dull the dungeon mass around us becomes. Less and less trees grow and the mana in the air gets much thinner as well. Finally, as we fly over a small hill and look down, the rift comes into view. My eyes open wide at the sight of it. This isn't what I expected to see at all. What seems to be a large tear in space itself ominously floats right above the ground. It's jet black in color and looks like someone tore a hole in the open air with a massive knife. It's nearly 3 meters wide and over 10 meters tall. The top and bottom edges narrow in to make points and the middle is the widest. Small amounts of raw demonic energy leak out from its edges, and it gives off a pressure unlike anything I've ever felt before. It's similar to the abyss, but sends chills down my spine with every step closer I take. Ember stops in place as he touches down about 40 or so meters away from the tear in space. He opens up his link. I won't be following you through the first time. It would be wise to leave that dagger behind as well. We don't know how strong the monsters in that rift are yet. Demonic realms can be very unpredictable and volatile, so it's best not to go in with anything you don't want to lose. The Midnight Dagger is the one item in my item storage that doesn't duplicate when I create a body double. It also isn't affected by the sparks produced from the mana on demonic energy reaction. I haven't done enough tests yet to understand why either of these phenomena occur, but now isn't the time to test it out. I reply while throwing the dagger into the dungeon floor by Ember's side. Understood. I'll leave it behind. While continuing to take steps forward closer to the rift, the pressure it gives off increases. It feels similar to the thickness in the air I felt while in the abyss, but with every step, it's becoming multiple times greater, like boulders are being stacked on my shoulders. Is there anything specific I should be looking for? Or any important details I should know before entering this realm? Although this is just a test with a body double, all the information I can get would be a great help. Ember immediately replies through the link. Refrain from using any mana-based skills when you first enter. Depending on the rift strength, even the simple use of a buff could cause a problem. The first thing you should do is get a feel for the terrain and scope out the average level of monster inside. Once you do this, report back and I can give you more instructions on what to do and what kind of demonic realm we're dealing with. I take another step and the pressure intensifies even more. My heart rate increases, and a grin that only comes across my face in the heat of a life-or-death battle creeps upon my lips. Finally, something really interesting. I take another step forward, coming within 10 meters of the black tear in the open air with my eyes practically sparkling. I deactivate all my mana-based skills, just like Ember said to before, taking a moment to stare into the darkness. Then, after taking a deep breath in and out, I sprint forward and take a leap through into the rift. My vision goes black, and the immense pressure around me increases even more. My head starts to ache with all the pressure, and I tighten both my fists while the feeling of weightlessness takes over. I float in a sea of darkness for a few seconds as the pressure continues to grow in my head and compress all parts of my body. Eventually, the weightless feeling turns into the sensation of falling, and my vision slowly returns. Purple and black energy swirls around and I brace for impact as my feet hit the solid ground. A loud crunch follows, but surprisingly it's the rock beneath my feet that breaks, not my bones. Although the invisible pressure that pushes down on me is intense, the raw demonic energy in the air is so abundant it feels like mana in a regular dungeon. Without wasting even a second, I begin absorbing as much as I can, maxing out my core at just over 50 units. With no reason to hold back, I let the energy flow through my pathways while constantly absorbing more. At full core and pathway saturation, letting the energy seep from my pores to power my footsteps and extra demonic senses feels like second nature. After doing this, my vision adjusts to the landscape, and I'm equally surprised at what I see. The raw energy in the air swirls around me in all directions, limiting my range of vision to a few dozen meters ahead. It's like a very foggy morning mist covering everything in sight. That mist just happens to be purple and black. The ground is made of what feels like hard, rugged stone, but it's covered with wet shrubbery that's tinted red and purple. The sound of light trickling and dripping water is nearby in every direction, and my footsteps echo, making it seem like I'm in some kind of vast cave system. The ground below my feet rises up and down in jagged and uneven pathways with awkward sharp pillars of stone like stalactites jutting up from the ground and down from a ceiling far above me in random places. They range in size from my own height to the size of multiple-story buildings as the cave structure expands outward. Through the mist, I can make out small streams of what I can only assume to be water, and the smell of iron fills my nose and lungs. The surroundings are so odd and foreign that it's difficult to even walk straight. If I don't take careful steps, I could easily pierce myself with something sharp, step into a pool of mystery liquid, or fall headfirst into a ravine. Even with the odd environment, my curiosity of this new world has my eyes wide and senses on full alert. The only real goal of my venture in here is to find out as much information about this realm as possible before coming back to Ember. I'd also like to know what treasures it potentially hides. At the thought, I turn around and my heart skips a beat when the rift I entered to get here is completely gone. Boss rooms in mana-based dungeons work in a very specific way. Once a hunter enters, they need to kill the boss before the transfer magic activates. This is the only way to get out. My guess is this rift works in a similar fashion. Some kind of condition needs to be met before I can escape. I let out a sigh and begin walking forward while expanding my demonic energy senses. The dense, swirling energy in this cave makes it very hard to see what's in front of me, but I can tell there's an opening and a pocket of much less dense air nearby. I carefully walk forward to search for this opening. Although I'm able to feel every bit of raw energy around me for almost a kilometer on every side due to my skill, the atmosphere is so dense with it that it's difficult to tell if there are monsters nearby or if they're just thick pockets of energy. I continue up and down small hills and pathways within the cavern, dodging spiked pillars of jagged stone, and making sure not to touch the streams of running liquid to try and get a better view of what's at the end. Once I finally reach what feels like the exit, I step through a final layer of mist into the outside world and stare down into a valley while taking in a breath of fresh air. The exit of the cave leaves me stranded on the side of a tall mountain's cliffside, looking down into a shadowy world below. Chapter 331. As far as I can see, on both my left and right is the cliffside of other mountains, all sloping downward into the same deep valley. Although the air is less dense with demonic energy up here, I can sense there are large pockets of close to zero energy down below in the shadows of the ravine. Above me, dark clouds fill the sky, and the iron smell is even stronger out here than within the cave. After careful consideration, I've come to the conclusion that the water is what gives off this odd smell. With eyes full of curiosity, I start walking down a winding mountain path toward the bottom. My feet crunch against the uneven ground, and the soggy red and purple shrubbery that grew inside the cave becomes even denser the further down the mountain I climb. Every link between Ember and the outside world is completely severed right now. I don't dare activate any mana-based skills until I'm sure it's safe to do so, but just feeling the pressure around me, all my senses are screaming not to. Almost 30 minutes pass as I slowly make my way down the mountain. The whole time I'm on high alert, but I've still yet to see a single monster in here. How odd! Usually, I'd be met with at least one monster mindlessly charging at me by now, but not a single one makes itself known. The swirling purple and black energy thins out more and more the further down I get until eventually, it's non-existent. I step onto the flat ground to take in the world below with the ominous towering mountains I just left behind me. There are streams of water that smell of metal that twist off into the open plain-like environment as far as I can see. The only plant life grows along the water's edge in small clumps. There are awkward jagged mounds of dirt and rock that rise up tens of meters in the air with the occasional tree devoid of leaves. None of them grow much higher than 5 meters in height. An invisible pressure very similar to the one I felt when entering the portal returns as I continue taking steps forward to explore. The ground becomes softer the further in I travel, and the smell of iron starts to turn sour. The landscape stays exactly the same as I leave the dark mountains behind. The air is still, and the only noises I can hear are my own heartbeat, wet footsteps, and the trickling water of the streams that have separated off in many directions. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I finally see something out of place. A large tablet rests out in the open. It's made of a lighter gray-colored rock that contrasts the purple and black landscape. The closer I get to it, the more questions I have. 3 holes are chiseled out in the large stone, and once I'm close enough, its size is much more impressive. The tablet stands over 3 times as tall as me, and upon further inspection, each of the holes looks like they can fit a key. The closer I get, the louder my heart beats in my chest. I place a hand on the cool stone, then run my fingers up and down its smooth surface, but nothing happens. I'm left in silence, and take my hand off the tablet with a disappointed expression. However, the moment I do, it immediately pulses light purple one time before going dormant again. It was so sudden and without warning or any consequence that if I blinked, I could have missed it. I start to circle it with a tightened gaze, questioning if that purple pulse was my imagination or not. My eyes scan the tablet again and again, looking for any other markings or clues, but come up with nothing. I let out a sigh and look off deeper into the open plain and talk aloud to myself. Is this place abandoned? I must be missing something. Less than half a minute later, I start to feel the ground rumble beneath my feet. At the same time, dozens of black figures appear on the horizon. I try to use my manipulation skill to tell how strong they are, but being so close together, it's nearly impossible to tell. Nevertheless, I step forward to meet the wave of incoming monsters. I was starting to think this place was really empty, so some signs of life inside is a good thing. Better late than never. The ground shakes more, and water that soaks the wetlands beneath my feet starts to ripple and splash around the closer the figures get. I stand in a fighting stance, channeling demonic energy through my body and squinting to get a closer look as they continue to approach at a steady speed. A stampede? Once within visual range, the black horns and the muscular bodies of dozens of bulls on all fours charge toward me. Their eyes are glowing red, and their minds are set on one task: attacking me. Now that they're within my manipulation range, I can feel that each of the charging bulls has around 30 to 40 units of energy inside them. So, they'll most likely have the average strength of a level 350 monster. Fighting without a dagger in hand is tough, but with opponents of this strength, I'm a bit more confident. I run forward with energy coursing through my body, leaving a faint trail of purple and black refined energy behind me. The bulls don't flinch at my sudden charge. They continue their rampage forward until we finally meet in the center of the wide-open wetlands. Now that we're closer, I count 44 of them in total. Let's do this. Quickly and carefully, I bob and weave through the charging beasts. They have a very hard time changing directions, so as long as my movements are fast and unpredictable, I'm not worried about getting hit by their horns. A demonic energy-imbued punch to the side is enough to knock one over, and even send blood flying, but surprisingly it isn't enough to kill the first couple that I launch attacks at. Tough ones, aren't you? Seeing this fail, I resort to releasing streams of black energy from my hands in thin blades, just like I attempted the first time fighting against wolves. These monsters are much stronger, so I up the strength on my energy blades just a bit. Roughly 5 concentrated units in a slash are just enough to cleanly cut a bull deep enough in a vital point to kill it. There's only one downside. I have to be within about 3 to 4 meters of range for these attacks to be dense enough to do any damage. When further away, the refined energy disperses into ineffective mist before it hits the target. With my natural agility and speed advantage, this is not a crippling problem to have. The pack starts to grunt loudly and roar as their members are picked off one by one. Absorbing the fallen bull's demonic energy isn't a simple task while dozens are still charging at me. So I resort to punching those that come near while I refill my core. Just 3 minutes pass, and the entire herd is dead on the damp floor, and the excess energy dissolves into the sky. I breathe heavily and stare down at my bloodied fists and wait for the monsters around me to completely disappear. As they do, small black glossy stones are left behind. I try to use all my senses to figure out what's so special about these stones, but just like the last few times, they appear to be just tiny obsidian-colored pebbles with no unique attributes. Once I begin picking them up, a roar echoes through the wetlands, and the air pressure completely shifts. A single figure comes running toward me from the same direction as the bulls. It has the same black horns, bulky body, and red eyes. However, this one stands on 2 legs, wields a long sword, and around its neck, there's a glowing purple key. Chapter 332. The silhouette of an enormous minotaur draws closer on the horizon. Its skin and fur are jet black, and its horns glisten with their obsidian-like gloss, reflecting the crimson light from the demonic creature's eyes back at me. My gaze is fixated on the glowing purple key around its neck. It's most likely linked to one of the conditions to unlocking whatever is behind this stone. I lunge forward with my fists ready, and every step trailing energy behind me as I pick up speed. As we draw closer to each other, I finally manage to get a good reading on the monster's strength as well. 55 units. Looks like this one may not be that easy, although it's nowhere near the Goliath of a worm I ran from in the abyss a few days back. It's no mere wolf or raging bull. This time around, I'm in their domain without a weapon and at a lower level as well. Fighting a monster this size and power could actually be quite the challenge, but it's one I'm ready for. The wind in my face picks up as we both accelerate, and once finally within range, I jump to my right side, narrowly avoiding its sword and hearing the roar of battle commence. I don't bother attacking, nor do I try after it turns to run at me again. For the first half a dozen exchanges, I'd like to gauge its speed and movement patterns. Just from the run over, I can tell our base speed stats are similar, and from the near miss of that sword swing, our agility seems to be nearly on par as well, though I have a slight edge. I land a single punch to its hind leg after dodging, and it feels like I'm hitting a brick wall layered with meat. The muscles and flesh ripple, but the monster hardly moves or reacts. The next exchange ends with a demonic energy slash, leaving my right hand filled with double that of the bulls I fought earlier. 10 units of refined energy hit the demonic minotaur at point-blank range in the same place behind its left leg. A deep gash opens up, but it doesn't even hit bone, and it's not nearly enough to slow its movements. This only angers it more. While watching the beast turn around, getting ready for our next exchange, I channel my manipulation skill to absorb raw energy from the atmosphere above, but only manage a few units before I have to cut my concentration and dodge its next strike. This happens 3 more times before I'm back up to my full stores, but the slash on the back of my opponent's leg seems to have closed up while I've taken the time to restore my energy. A scar is left behind but is quickly covered by a few wisps of purple and black energy, and the previously injured flesh looks as good as new. I smirk and run forward. Looks like you have some tricks of your own too. As time goes on, the grunts get louder, and the movements get sloppier. I manage to land 4 hits of 10 demonic energy strikes per full core, using up almost 10 units to power my movements while dodging and building up enough speed to place attacks. Every time I take the time to restore all 50 units of my own raw energy from the atmosphere, the wounds on the beast somehow heal on their own. However, every time it heals a wound, the energy in its body depletes further and further down. This is what gives me the spirit to continue my seemingly meaningless attacks. It may look like the battle is going nowhere from the outside view, but I know it's only a matter of time. 2 more full cycles of my 50-unit core get drained and used, and the Minotaur continues to get angrier and angrier, swinging its blade at me. The crimson eyes glow so bright with rage that the beast doesn't even realize its energy stores have nearly run to 0, and the slash marks stop healing. Its movements slow, and my barrage of attacks eventually bring it to its knees. I use 4 final 10-unit slashes on the same area at close range to slice its head clean off. It doesn't budge easily, but eventually, I free the heavy chain necklace from its chest. The purple glowing key lands in my grasp before it can hit the muddy ground. Thud! The corpse of the Minotaur falls behind me and slowly starts to dissolve. Letting out a satisfied sigh, I start to catch my breath and slowly recharge my core while twirling the key around through my fingers. It glows bright purple and gives off an intense pressure around it. My gaze switches from the key to the dissolving corpse and to the stone tablet off in the distance. The sound of something splashing into water sounds out as my eyes turn back to where the fallen Minotaur was before. In its place, a black stone remains. I step over to pick it up and examine it. Unlike all the other demonic stones I've collected before, this one has a light purple glow to it. Wisps of energy circle around it and it gives off a pressure just like the key in my other hand. I grip both the stone and key tight, then start walking over to the tablet again. Once standing in front of it, my heart starts beating louder, but I don't hesitate to stick the glowing key in the bottom hole and twist. As I do, the tablet pulses purple just like before. Then, in an instant, turns dull along with the key. The same rumbling is felt beneath my feet just a few seconds later. Just as I thought, I place the glowing stone from my last battle at the base of the tablet. I'll be back here with another one soon. I smirk and begin running toward a stampede of bulls. In a matter of minutes, every last one of them is defeated, and their small black gems are scattered across the wetlands floor. This wave had a few bulls that were pushing 45 units, a bit more than I expected, but not more than I can handle. Once finished collecting all of these stones and restoring my demonic energy, the presence of another creature similar to the last boss enters my senses. The ground starts to vibrate and I feel its footsteps approaching quickly. As I turn my head to see what direction it's coming from, the sight of it charging toward me at less than 100 meters away gives me a bit of a shock. I put my hands up, ready to do a similar long-lasting battle as the previous boss, but before I can even think of which direction to dodge in, it's already closed the gap. Too fast. A glossy double-sided axe swings my way through the air, and the only thing that fills my vision are the glowing red eyes and another purple key dangling from the creature's neck as I use all my strength and demonic energy stores to jump out of the way to dodge. I can feel the razor-sharp edge of the blade tear the back of my red robe as I roll to the floor out of the way, but am hit with a heavy fist in the stomach that's easily 5 times larger than my own. Came out of nowhere, the speed and power of this next boss are levels above the last one. I cough up blood while analyzing the monster before me to contain over 65 demonic energy units. Then, I get struck in the back before my vision goes dark. You have died. My main body receives this chain of memories while burning a group of monsters in a far-off dungeon to a crisp. I stop mid-fight and let out a chuckle before creating a new body double to send back to Ember to report the news. After this, I airstep downward to see if any more items have dropped while talking to myself under my breath. Looks like my training today isn't over just yet. There seems to be a few more things I need to learn. Chapter 333. I teleport back to the Minotaur dungeon and recall the events inside the demonic realm to Ember, who replies with a sly grin and eyes full of interest. So it's a trial realm. Once the 3 stages of tests are complete, the realm will collapse and bring you back here, I'm positive. I've seen these used before many times by newly ranked up demons. They're usually used for combat training once you reach a certain point, passing level 500 or so. I reply to this. Training? For what? Don't demons naturally rank up and gain levels as they guard a labyrinth? Ember replies. Some do, some don't. Others practice with trials controlled by the king, preparing for a possible future when they're allowed back into the demonic world. This one is one of the Tier 2 trials, 3 stages of waves with increasing difficulty. Rewards for trials like this would be items like the dagger you already hold, or the special demonic stones you mentioned dropped from the first boss. I ponder to myself for a moment. So my dagger came from one of these realms? Ember shrugs and turns to the rift. It's impossible to know. There was nothing like the abyss in my previous knowledge, so the source could possibly be different. Times are changing. What I do know is you'll need to use mana and demonic energy to take out the opponents ahead if they're as powerful as you say. Use the training we've gone through so far, but be mindful that contact with any outside demonic energy with your active skills will cause a reaction. You'll have to worry about other monsters' energy as well, not just your own. I stare down at the dagger still half sunken into the ground by Ember's side, then look up at the rift, deciding not to take the blade with me just yet. Got it. I need to do some more tests. Without another moment to think, I jump through the rift and start trekking through the dark cave again. The pathways and tunnels feel much more familiar this time around, and I make it out to the side of the mountain in a matter of minutes. The climb downward is much easier as well. Once the demonic energy-filled air clears up and the open field below comes into view, the stone tablet far off in the distance is visible to the naked eye. Not too far from it, a minotaur almost double the tablet's size begins running toward me. Good. The trials don't restart. The second boss is still here. It can sense me from here too. I run forward and attempt my first mana-imbued skill attempt, activating Berserker, Bloodlust, and Extreme Strength to boost my movement speed and many other stat points. The red and golden aura that forms around me manages to stay active while I reach into my item storage and pull out the duplicated Flame Emperor's sword. With each step closer I take, my anticipation grows. My recent increase in speed and ability to use buffs allows me to perceive the enormous black creature in front of me. My left eye continues to watch the demonic energy swirling around the massive monster that runs my way. I make it down the mountain entirely and begin charging my sword. I decide not to airstep right away unless necessary because there's no mana in the air. Previously, I tested absorbing duplicated mana crystals on a body double, and it didn't work as well as I hoped. The crystals dissolve upon absorption and don't add any MP to my body or status. My full bar is all I have to work with right now, so it's best not to waste anything. Eventually, I come within attacking range and let a low-powered mana-based strike fly toward the demonic monster. It's initially just a test to see if I can even launch an attack like this in here, but also I'm trying to gauge the new monster's real reflex speed and note down its movement patterns. As the flickering blade of fire soars toward the monster, it ducks and sidesteps with ease, hardly changing its forward momentum one bit. In reaction, I don't flinch either and keep running forward at its incoming double-bladed axe. Just like our last encounter, I dodge its downward strike, but with much more ease this time around because of my mana buffs, and let out a slash of fire at its back. A smirk creeps across my face as I use a small pocket of air magic to propel myself away faster and watch sparks begin to form where my mana makes contact. The loud roar of an injured beast rings out. In the end, you were no match. I whisper under my breath as I turn around, but the sight before me doesn't match the sound of the roar. A large gash is visible in the monster's hide, but the sparks are starting to fizzle out and there's no sign of my fiery strike ever being there. No burns, nor excess residue is visible on the beast. All that remains is a wound that barely goes as deep as bone, and the light crackle of a few sparks remaining before the reaction goes out entirely. Wait, how? My mind doesn't register what happens at first, and I nearly get hit by the next charge by the beast but use another few dozen MP of wind magic to jump up high enough in the air to dodge. I shake my head and get back into battle mode, releasing another mana blade with a few hundred MP worth of energy down at the Minotaur. I'll figure out your weakness soon enough. 5 more exchanges go by and I continue to land hits on the beast's blind spots as it tries to attack me. The speed and power of this creature are quite frightening. Even when using my mana-powered buffs, our speed and agility stats are nearly even. My only advantage is the use of wind magic to get out of its way in a bind. Pure strength and attack power, it's got me totally beat. As seen from our last exchange, 1 hit from that axe and I'm dead. So far, I've landed 7 clean fire-imbued mana blades on the creature's chest and back, and the same thing keeps happening. Upon impact, there's a huge explosion of sparks, but once all of the mana is disintegrated, the demonic energy swirling around the monster remains. Unlike how even a tiny bit of demonic energy hits mana, it destroys everything it touches. When mana hits demonic energy, it only destroys enough to get rid of the mana itself. This is going to be a lot tougher than I thought. With half a bar of MP remaining, I continue to wear the beast down. Its movements are getting much slower, but not at the same rate as me. I'm gonna have to think of something new if I want to kill this beast in one shot. In between my next few attacks, I try a few demonic energy slashes at close range too. The amount of damage one 10-unit slash causes is minuscule when compared to the destructive force of a 100-200 MP mana blade. It's hard to get close enough for demonic energy to be effective, but I continue to try. The demonic energy in the air high above can replenish my core, while I have no mana available to continuously charge this source. However, on my last demonic energy attempt, the Minotaur catches on and turns its gaze toward me mid-stride. Before I can think twice about changing my trajectory, its axe has shifted directions and is coming straight at my right side. Thinking fast, I reflexively activate Dungeon Walker to teleport out of the way. Airstep would not be fast enough, and I haven't tested a demonic blade on mana blade contact yet. I'm not 100% confident in its ability to block an incoming attack. Dungeon Walker Dash. Dungeon Dash. D-Dash. The moment it activates, there aren't any points to warp to. This skill doesn't work in here. My mind is blank, and I grit my teeth. The second best option will have to do. Reluctantly, I swing my sword up to block the axe before it comes crashing down on me, while summoning a barrier of pink mana along its edges for extra support. A loud crackle and twang ring out in the air as I drain my MP stores down to under 15%. The explosion of sparks and immense pressure released blasts me backward over 20 meters, and I air step upward to get out of range from the mad monster's attack radius. My expression is filled with frustration and a hint of anger, but deep beneath my eyes, there's a glint of pure battle-hungry glee. Though that shimmer in my eyes may just be the reflection of the sparks crackling off the tip of my shattered sword. Half of it has disintegrated in the blast and is slowly moving downward toward the handle. My gaze points down to the monster's weapon that has suffered a similar fate. A large chunk of the black axe blade is missing, as well as one of its long glossy horns atop its head that got caught in the blast. I throw the blade to the ground as it crackles away into nothingness and reach into my item storage to grab my wind dagger. Using its special perk, I separate the weapon into 2 parts to grip one in each hand, while quickly air-stepping back down to the ground to conserve the small amount of mana I have left. Chapter 334. With only a few hundred MP remaining, I rush at my opponent with 2 wind daggers in my grasp. The remaining raw energy inside the monster I run toward is just over a third of what it started with. If I continue using my mana at the same rate with the same strategies, I'll surely lose. I need to get up close and try a more powerful technique. One that can finish it off in a single shot. With this in mind, The next time I narrowly avoid the Minotaur's axe and air step away, I continue my upward trajectory to position myself dangerously close to the beast. I haven't let my usual shot of energy off yet. I'm still charging everything I have into both my blades. This lack of attack notifies the monster that I'm doing something different. It instantly catches on. I hear a grunt as it quickly turns my way with an upward swing of its axe. With every last drop of MP going into my daggers, I swing down, pointing at the side of the demonic creature's neck while the sharp side of its axe slices me clean in two. The final thing I see is an explosion of sparks, and the head of the beast topple off its neck. You have died. The memories all come back to me as I finish up farming another quest in one of the level 100 to 150 dungeons. I chuckle to myself while making another body double. That's one way to do it. At the same time, I reach into my inventory and take out about 30k MP worth of crystals to give to my double before it teleports back to Ember in the Minotaur dungeon. That's over 10 full recharges. If lack of MP is the issue, this should be enough for my next opponent. Then I get back to farming. Only a third of the quests remain, and I already completed the hardest and highest paying ones. At this rate, I'll finish every one of them before the sun comes up. I carefully separate the real mana crystals in my item storage, not mixing them up with the duplicate copies. To the naked eye, the duplicates look exactly the same, but under any amount of mana control or perception skills, it's clear they're fakes. After reporting the events of my last fight to Ember, I jump back into the rift to see what exactly happened after the fight. Less than half an hour passes before I find the second glowing purple key on the ground. It glows even brighter, and right next to it on a path of crimson-colored shrubbery is another demonic stone the size of my entire palm. It glows the same purple color and gives off a similar invisible pressure. With a grin across my face, I walk over to the stone tablet and place my winnings from the second battle next to the other one on the ground below before twisting the next key into the middle hole. I have to hover about a meter off the ground to place the key inside, as it's fairly high up in the air. Once I do, the purple pulse repeats just like before, then the entire tablet goes dull. A rumble immediately shakes the ground, and a herd of bulls comes charging my way. From here, it looks and feels like nearly 100 of them this time around. I run at them and start the third wave. No more than 5 minutes pass before every last mob is dead on the floor. Every one of them was between 40 and 50 units. I decide to use my wind daggers to make things quicker. I don't need to use much MP at all, and one wind slash can take out multiple. The small black stones that drop to the floor without even a hint of purple glow after they all dissolve are disappointing. But at least I'm warmed up for the main event with over 90% of my MP stores remaining. As I turn around while catching my breath, the presence of a single beast fills my senses. It's here, with 75 units of raw demonic energy swirling through its body. The outline of a shadowy minotaur appears on the horizon of the realm. Before I can even grip my blades and prepare myself to fight, its outline disappears from sight. I immediately turn on my mana senses and full buffs to jump in the air with my air steps. Then the overwhelming presence and pressure of a powerful being surges beneath me. It seemed to be using a teleport skill at first, but once I use all my senses to perceive it, the monster just ran at me too fast for my unaided eyes to see. It stands over 10 times my height and wields 2 long black swords that reflect its glowing red eyes in their glossy shine. The final purple key rests around its neck. 2 enormous twisting horns come off its head, and the entirety of its body is pouring out refined energy. The monster before me came in aggressive from the start, using demonic speed buffs and swinging its swords in an elegant display. If I didn't instinctively jump in the air with magic once the Minotaur left my vision, I'd undoubtedly be defeated already. Gritting my teeth, I still let off 2 high-powered mana blades in its direction, but before they even make it halfway to its neck, the beast turns and makes eye contact with me before dodging and pointing its 2 blades in my direction. To my surprise, the swords in its hands begin to glow purple, the same color as the key around its neck. The next thing I witness is it swinging both blades across its body in synchronicity, and a purple crescent of light shrouded in darkness with black energy trailing behind it erupts from the Minotaur's weapons. An energy attack? It looks just like my mana blades, but is clearly made of demonic energy. It's charged to glow bright purple, unlike when I release dark black refined energy straight from my hands. I've seen a similar effect take place in my dagger, but have never been able to send it flying from the blade like this before. All I can think to do is send my own attack back and move out of the way. With a large amount of my remaining MP, I air step away from the blast and send a white crescent of my air magic back at it to further propels me out of the way as I watch an eruption of sparks destroy my full-powered attack. In less than a second, my energy blade is completely destroyed, and over half of the demonic energy blade's size still remains as it rockets further into the sky. My gaze locks onto the Minotaur again, and I see it powering up another attack. I'm nowhere near its speed on the ground, and I'm a sitting duck in the sky. Taking a quick glance at my MP bar, it's already below half. I try to air step further away to catch my breath and come up with a strategy to take on this new opponent, but there's no time to think. The murderous roar of the final demonic boss echoes all throughout the realm, and another full-powered slash comes flying my way. Chapter 335. Thinking fast, I use up my remaining MP stores to combat the second incoming demonic energy blade. There's just enough time for me to use the propulsion of my strike to move myself out of the way, and a similar display of sparks erupts in the sky. Not good. My MP remaining is at less than 5%, and using demonic energy against an opponent like this is pointless unless I can figure out how to charge my attacks like his swords do. Bringing my dagger into this realm has its own risks. If I lose it, I'm not sure I'll easily be able to find another one. I have to be absolutely sure I can defeat this monster before gambling with a weapon so unique. The only thing I should focus on right now is the monster's movements, and try to land an attack to gauge its strength and see how many it will take to defeat it. With this in mind, I air step into the air and open my item storage to pull out a few thousand MP worth of mana crystals to recharge my magic. The moment the pink gems touch my skin and the absorption process begins, the crackle of sparks starting to form on my contact point makes my stomach drop. My gaze turns to witness my MP bar not budge even slightly. The roar of the Minotaur below me sounds for the incoming energy blade to finish me off in an instant. You have died. I make another double to send myself back to the rift. Ember greets me before I jump in. Back so soon? I take it the final boss is more difficult than you thought. My mind is moving in a million directions trying to come up with a way to actually harm the beast in that rift. I fill Ember in on what occurred, and my list of potential battle strategies for the next few attempts. He thinks to himself for a moment before replying. That does sound like a good plan. Have a few battles using every trick you've got to learn its attack patterns and look for a weakness. A 75-unit final boss is a difficult task, but I don't think it's impossible. Just be wary, monsters of this tier, if left to their own means for long enough, will get stronger on their own. I wouldn't be surprised if it tried to cause a rift break by absorbing the demonic energy inside and focusing it on a single point to make a tier if you don't keep it busy. My eyes widen, but Ember keeps talking through our link. It shouldn't be a problem as long as you take care of it today. There's plenty of time. Just not an unlimited amount of it. I turn back to the rift, but ask a final question before stepping forward. How about my mana problem? Is there really no way to absorb it without setting off the reaction? It doesn't make any sense. Why am I able to use my buffs and regular skills without a problem, but the crystals I used immediately backfired on me? Ember replies, I for one have never attempted to absorb mana in a demonic realm. There's never been any need to do so. I have a theory as to why the realm can't handle mana in its purest form, and there is a way to mask it along with your aura. This may make the absorption process possible. However, there isn't enough time to teach you mana suppression before this rift breaks down. You'll need a much higher mana control to learn such techniques. I let out a sigh and jump through. So it looks like I'll just have to work with what I've got for now. Although this new technique of mana suppression sounds interesting, Ember knows my strength well. If I'm not strong enough to handle it yet, it can't help me for the time being. I make it through the cave in a matter of minutes and jump down the side of the mountain using up tiny amounts of mana to safely make my way to the bottom. It may be a small waste of magic, but time is of the essence here. Burning through a few MP is worth it if I get a few more fights in against the enormous beast that's been patiently waiting for me in the open field. The second I come into its view, the monster dashes over with blinding speed and glowing swords. I take out my wind daggers and attempt a few attacks. The next 2 hours go by in a flash. After 5 body double deaths and just over 20 slashes from the Minotaur, I've come to the conclusion that this is going to be close to impossible. Its speed and power are too overwhelming. Every single base stat of the monster in front of me is higher than my own, even with my buffs activated. It's not that it's using any unique skill I can't handle, it just has been outclassed on natural abilities in every category. I attempt to use my Red Hydra's Rage, but it doesn't even show up in my status. This is most likely because as long as my main body is conscious, its mental strength stat will be higher and therefore the holder of the buff. With an increase in stats like that, I may have a fighting chance, but as I am right now, it's starting to seem hopeless as I haven't even landed a single bit of damage, nor have I even fully destroyed one of its energy blades. Well, I might as well see if this will work. On my next attempt, I go in with one mission, to land some damage by any means necessary. I want to see if I can make this monster bleed, and possibly wear it down more and more one battle at a time. After running through the caves and jumping down the mountain, I aim straight for the boss with my instant finale ranked up buff ready to use. After narrowly dodging one slash, I don't duck for cover. I continue forward and activate all the remaining mana in my body to let out a flash of white explosive light. I hear the monster roar, but everything goes black before I can see the aftermath. My memories are transferred back to my main body and I make another double to repeat the process. Quickly, I run back into the rift to see if my attack landed and have my buff ready for another just in case I need to use it again. The burnt flesh and injured left side of the beast that I see once breaking through the demonic energy cloud line brings a smile to my face. Although the wisps of black and purple energy coming from the clouds above down to the beast and the slowly healing flesh is not at all what I wanted to witness following. Still, I charge forward and manage to pull off another instant finale, making the beast roar out in pain. It got very used to my old attack strategies, making it impossible to land a hit. After a few attempts, it catches on to what I'm doing here too. But it's clear the beast does not comprehend how I've managed to come back to fight it again and again. All it knows is it needs to avoid getting hit and heal as much as it can before the next energy blast comes to meet it. Nevertheless, I come running through the rift and back down the mountain again for a third time to witness the scarring and damaged flesh on its right side from my second attack. This excites me. However, its left side from my first is almost healed entirely. I set off another self-destruct move again, aiming straight for its nearly healed side. It's a success, but in coming back for a fourth time, I find that now its right side has nearly healed too. Although I managed to land some hits, this endless cycle will only anger the beast more and won't end in its demise. I'm traveling as fast as I can and using my full power every time. There's no attack more powerful and mana efficient than this. The time lag between each of my deaths is too long. I'm gonna have to risk more than just a body double to win this fight. Chapter 336. After being defeated a few more times, and even managing to land a few regular mana hits on the monster to gauge its strength further at the cost of valuable positioning that resulted in being defeated moments later, I've come to a conclusion. I stand outside the rift with my hands on my hips in my true form, not bothering to make another body double just yet. I've finished every quest and have all the item dropped stored away in my item storage, and the only thing left to do is clear this rift. I recall the events of my last few battles to Ember, then let out a sigh. I won't be able to beat this monster in my doubled form if I want to take it out by sunrise. I'm not fast enough, nor strong enough, and don't have the means to defeat it with this nerfed strength. My eyes wander down to my dagger stuck in the dungeon floor, and I hear a reply. Based on what you've told me so far, it seems like you just need a little boost. Your base form is much stronger and has access to the Red Hydra's buff. It may be a tougher battle, but I see you winning it, no question. I'll even join you inside the rift now that we know exactly what we're working with. I nod while bending down to grip the black dagger. Are you sure the buff won't react in the same way mana crystals did when I absorbed them? This is the only part of all this that I'm hesitant on. Soul energy cannot be destroyed by demonic energy. Whatever skills were safe before will be safe while using the buff as well. Plus, like I said, I'll come along and help if you need. We'll call this battle the grand finale of your training session today. I think you're going to be surprised at how far you've come. I twirl the black dagger through my fingers, then make a body double before walking through the rift. I'll need all the help I can get. I want to see what reward I'll receive for winning a final boss match like this. After this, I'm transported into the demonic realm with a body double on my left side and Ember on my right. We begin venturing through the cave to face the final boss. Maybe ever since this labyrinth run, I've been too dependent on my body double. It is a great tool to use for information gathering and help with some leveling and item farming in the future, but there are some opponents that need my full strength. I take my walk through the cave and down the mountain a bit slower this time around, and for the first time properly channel demonic energy into my real body. The sensation feels exhilarating. Unlike my double, this body allows me to hold over 55 units in my core. I can already feel the difference. As we get down to the bottom of the mountain, and away from the dense clouds of raw energy, I begin to focus my own into just my left side like in training. With the rest of my body, I activate the full force of my buffs and perception skills, as the sound of the Minotaur's roars fills our ears. Ember flaps his wide black scaled wings, flying in the direction of our enemy, while my double charges forward to be a distraction. My eyes stay locked on the beast as it comes forward. Even now, with a small boost in stats, its movements don't look as unbeatable as they once were. I take a deep breath in and out, then whisper under my breath. I only have one chance this time, so I have to make every strike count. As these words leave my lips, a black wave of fire leaves Ember's mouth, and I watch him send a ball of black demonic energy from his right front claws. I grin and activate my Red Hydra's rage buff, then run forward at the towering monster that begins throwing an energy attack at my body double. The glowing purple crescent of charged demonic energy cuts through the air, but as the crimson power of my buff envelopes my entire body, it seems like everything around me has slowed down almost by 3 times. The blade soaring toward my double seems easy to dodge, but my copy releases an immense amount of MP to blast out of the way. As soon as this happens, the wave of fire from the dragon in the sky rains down on the Minotaur, burning off a layer of its flesh with sparks, and the demonic energy attacks that follow do a bit of damage too. Ember's attacks from the sky do a similar amount of damage as my body double's self-destruct move. Strong, but it would still take over a dozen of them consecutively to put this beast in bad condition. Seeing this, I run forward. The demonic Minotaur does the same, bursting through a wall of black flames and sparks. It has disregarded the small amount of damage from the flames to focus on the real enemy before it. Its glowing purple swords are both swung toward me, but it's now even a challenge for me to dodge. I easily change my trajectory with a sidestep and use a small amount of air magic to twist out of its way. In doing this, I see the monster's blind spot for a split second and release a wave of mana-imbued fire wrapped in the Red Hydra's aura straight toward the beast's back. It slices through the air without a sound and cuts cleanly through the monster's hide without a single spark. My eyebrows raise in confusion. Then the explosion of flesh, flames, and sparks that follow exhilarate me more. The soul energy covering the blade didn't react with the demonic energy one bit, slicing through the monster's flesh without causing a reaction at all. But once inside, the energies escaped, and an eruption of its full power could not be held within. Another murderous roar from the beast shakes the very floor we stand on. But my body double has already sent a few more attacks in as a distraction for the monster to easily block with its purple blades. As the residue clears, the creature turns to me. The look in its eyes tells me it won't underestimate me again. However, the demonic energy attempting to heal its wounded back will not be enough to heal it in time like our previous brawls. The attack it just took head-on expelled over 25% of the energy in its body. If the boss is anything like the previous few, that means 3 more hits like this will end the fight. I grip my dagger in my left hand and flaming sword in my right and run forward again, releasing a wave of flames straight at it. Even with my stat buff advantage at this distance, the monster has more than enough time to dodge and throw a counter, but that's exactly what I'm hoping for. A blade of its own energy comes my way, but I jump high in the air and move to the right side as I see Ember coming up behind it on my left. The dragon in the sky releases a wall of flames behind the beast so that when I come in close and dodge its next incoming swings, the creature has nowhere to hide. I land another perfect slash on its blind spot. However, this time around it pushes through the pain and throws around a counter with its swords alone at me. I could burn through MP to airstep away, but I can sense its strength and decide to take it head-on. Raising my dagger in the air, I've had it charged to full saturation this entire time, ready for a moment like this. I hold the jet-black blade covered in a veil of red light above my head to block both of the enormous purple swords coming down toward me. The pulsing light from the key around its neck and its two blades are strong. Much stronger than my own dagger, but with my vision tinted red by the buff covering my body, I let out a yell of my own to match its roar while pushing through and overpowering its slash. Raw strength and the positioning of my blade out maneuvers its counter. The beast stumbles backward, and I take this opportunity to release a mana-based attack at its front side. A black blade of flames covered in an ominous red aura enters its chest and disappears entirely for a fraction of a second. Next, a golden glow comes from within, lighting up the slash mark like a crack in the earth, and the rapid explosion of mana and demonic energy follows outward. I airstep back while sending out more attacks straight toward the source, adding to the intense flames, sparks, and growing cloud of red aura residue. Despite this barrage, the faint purple glow of its charged blades at the explosion's center still remains. Chapter 337. My eyes dart back and forth, watching both my body double and Ember on either side of the beast. The growing explosion of sparks and red aura from my last barrage of attacks is getting larger, and I feel an ominous pressure emerge from the Minotaur taking my hits head-on. Gritting my teeth and looking down at my MP bar that's just fallen below 30% of its remaining stores, I decide I need to finish this now. I don't know what kind of hidden ability or special ending move this boss has, and I don't plan to give it time to show me. I yell through my link to Ember as well as my body double while charging everything I have into my flaming sword. We're finishing this right now. Everything you've got before it has a moment to recover. The enormous black dragon in the sky releases a wall of flames over twice the thickness as before, and my double charges in, glowing white, to explode at the center. I grin while swinging my flaming sword across my body and letting out a final slash with nearly every bit of MP left in me. A glimmer of the beast's glowing red eyes can be seen through the debris, and the crossing of both its purple swords appear in the trajectory of my attack. An earth-shaking clash rings out and the two swords are shattered to pieces as my final wave of crimson and black mana-imbued fire slices the final boss in two. Simultaneously, it flies backward into Ember's wave of flames, and the destructive force of my double adds to the magnificent display. The same golden crack in its chest like my previous strike starts to form, but this time it's followed by the release of a ball of energy that cracks the ground with a shock wave. I'm thrown backward by the blast, and everything within 20 meters of the monster is decimated. The streams of water are evaporated and the ground below is dug out for many meters down in a huge crater. I still grip my dagger and sword tight, on guard for if anything happens next, but eventually see the dust settle and the burnt flesh and shattered blades all remain in a blackened pile. Ember flaps his wings slowly, hovering in the air high above it all, and I creep forward after confirming there's nothing left of the final monster. We did it! Just like that? As the purple glimmer of the final key and a large purple stone make themselves known beneath the dissolving remnants of the beast, I let out a sigh and deactivate all my buffs. The immense fatigue and pain throughout my body that follows is far worse than I expected. I take a step forward to continue and collect my loot, but both of my feet feel as if boulders are tied to each of them. My shoulders droop and my eyelids are so heavy that they shut on instinct as I drop to my knees and let the dagger and sword in my hands hit the floor. I cough up blood and grunt but manage to stay conscious through the pain. It's just the side effects of my Red Hydra's buff, but don't have Abby to heal me at a moment like this. Ember flies down to meet me by my side. The battle is over, you did well. I hear his voice in my head, and want to keep my eyes shut and fall asleep, but decide to ignore my instincts and power through. It's not over just yet. There's one last thing to do. Pushing myself up off the ground with closed fists, I place my dagger and sword back in my item storage before walking over to the place where the monster was slain. The movements feel like I'm lugging around so much extra weight that my feet have to be dragged and my bones ache more with every step. But once I set my mind on what I need to do, I put myself into a tunnel vision trance-like state to get it done. I'm sure once out of this realm, I'll be able to heal myself without a problem. I tighten my grasp around the key and enormous stone and stare down at both of them. Ember's voice echoes in my head again. Let me take you to the tablet. The hard part is done. We can leave now and you can claim your rewards. Turning to my right, I see his black scaled wing and walk up to hop on his back. We soar through the air for a moment before touching down in front of the tablet with a final keyhole remaining. I pick up the 2 other stones from my previous fights. Then Ember lifts me up to eye level with the final hole to insert the key and turn it in place. With a click, the curved stone glows bright purple like it has many times before. This time, however, it stays glowing for much longer and doesn't go out after a single pulse. In this moment, my eyes don't have any trouble staying focused on the events taking place in front of me. All I see is the purple light grow brighter and brighter until it's almost white. As the light grows, the area around me starts to fade from view. Eventually, I begin to feel the same weightless sensation I felt when entering this rift for the first time. I hold my breath and look back and forth over both shoulders as we're transported back into the grassy and rocky Minotaur dungeon we initially came from like nothing happened. The moment mana fills my senses, I immediately begin to plunder it from the dungeon around me and activate my self-regeneration skill to repair the small amount of mana fatigue I can manage. It helps a bit, but does not do much to negate the effects of this buff's aftermath. Regardless, I stare down at the 3 purple stones that still glow bright on the rocky dungeon floor. They range from the size of a small fruit I could hold in my palm, to the final boss crystal being larger in diameter than my entire open hand. Each of them has their own unique shape, with jagged glossy black edges, but their cores all glow bright purple with a hint of white light deep within. While fully consumed in these item drops, wondering what I'll be able to do with these stones, Ember brings 2 other items to my attention. Off to my left, there's a small black key along with a ring of the same color. They both look exactly like they're made from the same material as my dagger, and they fell from the rift after it completely collapsed. Taking these 5 items, I store them all in my item storage to examine. I may be tired, but the grin across my face confirms that this mission is complete. After attempting to use lifesteal for extra HP, but it having no effect because I'm already at a full bar, as well as my hibernation skill oddly giving me no messages stating there is anything wrong with my body, the only other option on my mind is to sleep. Without another thought, I hop on Ember's back and do exactly that. He flaps his wings and brings us high in the air above the dungeon's cloud line and out of sight. It feels like the natural thing to do before the sun rises. I'll need to be in better shape before I can hand in my quest rewards at the mercenary bar in the morning. Chapter 338. I finally open my eyes after a long rest and am greeted by Ember as I do. Good morning. You've gotten back into your habit of oversleeping lately. The white clouds and crisp air of the dungeon sky brushes past my face at a calm speed. I stretch to rub my face, but the feeling of pins and needles all over my body makes my movements much more difficult. Even so, it's not nearly as bad as before I knocked out. Letting out a light cough and feeling the soreness in my abs squeeze tight as I sit up, I reply to Ember. How long was I out? Don't tell me it was longer than a day. The grumble of hunger from my stomach and dry mouth tell a different story. There's a chuckle from Ember, but he replies in a half-serious tone moments after. Just over 3 days. That red Hydra buff is more dangerous than I thought. It may give you power, but if we're alone on the battlefield, you're going to have to use it only when absolutely necessary. These side effects aren't something you can afford to deal with on a whim. If I were to absorb one, I'd wait until my next rank up before even thinking about attempting it. I nod, biting my bottom lip. Ember has a point. His statement makes me rethink asking him to absorb the last remaining soulstone. If even he thinks it's too dangerous, I won't push him to do it either. Ember is naturally powerful enough without it. I'll have to save it for when he's ready and really needs it. Considering this fact, there are two other main things that are less urgent but still lurk at the back of my mind. The first is my trip to Valor City is delayed. Although my hibernation was cut short, I did tell my teammates it'd take over a full week, so this detour actually evens things out. The second thing is I won't get to show off to the bartender that I cleared every quest in a single night. 3 days will have to do. It's probably far less suspicious this way too. I smile at the thought, then another comes to mind. The loot. With my eyes wide open in anticipation, I reach into my item storage and pull out everything that dropped in the demonic rift. Sitting on Ember's back while clouds still pass me on both sides, I carefully examine the 3 obsidian-textured purple stones first, and place the small black key and smooth ring beside them to check out last. I use all of my perception skills, but not a single detail comes up. When activating my demonic energy manipulation skill, I feel an eerie pressure coming off each of them, unlike anything the regular non-glowing black stones showed before. Even so, I can't absorb any energy from them or even get a hint at what these rocks can do. Letting out a sigh, I open my link with Ember. Do you know anything about these gems? You mentioned each boss would drop them before, but I can't figure out what they do. Tier 2 demonic stones? What can you do with them? Ha! All sorts of things. My eyebrows raise as Ember goes on. That is, if you were a true demonic monster. I don't think you'll have the ability to fuse with these stones without giving up your ability to wield mana as your base power source. So, I don't recommend it. My excitement leaves me as fast as it came, but Ember keeps explaining. However, I have heard of master craftsmen fusing stones like these into armor and weapons, similar to your firestones and the Flame Emperor's sword. Certain demonic items are capable of being upgraded too. At this news, I activate my mythic grade crafting skill and reach into my item storage to pull out my dagger. Going through a process like this never occurred to me, but now that I think about it, my dagger can turn into a weapon like that Minotaur's swords. The moment these words leave my mouth, I activate my demonic energy vision in my left eye out of instinct, and keep all my perception skills active in my right. Instead of blue text, I can see faint system messages popping up over the dagger in light purple text as well. It works all the same as the mana system. The actions happen in real time. The item in front of me is renamed to the Midnight Dagger, and a series of options to upgrade it pop up just like with my sword. I pick up the purple stones, and just as Ember said, Tier 2 demonic stones pop up as their identity in the system. Upgrade item. The Midnight Dagger. Additional raw imbuement material. 3x Tier 2 demonic stones. Additional skill or special attribute imbuement. See available. Stat bonus. Plus 15 units capacity. Complete. Yes. And no. My eyes are glued to the text before me. I don't utter a word, just read the system messages over and over to make sense of it. I click into See Available, and the only skill that pops up is Demonic Energy Manipulation. Seeing no downsides to this, I choose to accept here too. Then, pick Yes. A flash of blue, purple, and white light glows bright in front of me, and the gems in my hands start to fuse into the dagger. I try to use my all-seeing eye to understand the process, but even to my refined gaze, it just seems like energy is swirling faster and faster until it stops. Once it does, the white light dissipates, and all that remains is a weapon before me. It's different, but I like it. Grinning, I grip the new blade in my hand tight. It looks as if it's grown almost 30% larger, and its black color is somehow even darker than before. I try to focus and find a pocket of demonic energy around to test it out, but to my surprise, there isn't a drop remaining in this dungeon. It all must have left with the rift. Even the small amount of energy I had in my core has dissolved away as I slept. Nevertheless, I still stare down at the new blade in awe, wondering how this rise in capacity will affect its use. I know the previous capacity was 5 units, and when I wielded it fully, it allowed me to battle with 60 units total. Without the blade in my hand, my attacks and pool of demonic energy was a small amount less dense, making my use less efficient. With another boost of 15, making its capacity 20 in total. That brings my full wielding capacity up to 75 units. The same as the Minotaur I just defeated. This leaves me with some questions. With this new weapon upgrade, will I be able to send out energy attacks like the demonic boss? If so, does this mean my strength while using demonic energy alone has increased close to the strength of that beast too? With these and many other questions racing through my mind, I still place the dagger back into my storage. There will be time to figure these things out later. My eyes fall to the key and ring next. I try a similar technique of using inspect and appraisal while activating my demonic vision on these items, but they don't show any signatures or readings back at all. I throw them into my crafting skill and still have no results either. After a few minutes of tinkering, I decide it's a lost cause and ask Ember after placing them both into my storage too. He responds, "The ring I'm not too sure of. You may need to channel demonic energy into it to find out its power. That key, on the other hand, is definitely a rift key." A rift key? It's a sign that you've completed the demonic rift trial. If you hold on to it, that key may open up another trial if you channel enough energy into it. My eyes light up at the thought, but Ember shuts me down instantly. Don't even think about it. Considering the strength of the one you just faced, the next trial will most likely be a Tier 3 rift. You'll need to get much stronger before trying something like that. I've seen a few Tier 3 trials in my day, but haven't met a demon capable of passing the test. Don't lose that key. I can only imagine what kind of loot it'll drop. This upgrade to my demonic gear and possibilities of future treasures puts a smile across my face. Both of us are in great spirits as we near the exit portal of the dungeon. Once we touch down, I open up my storage for Ember to enter. Then I step out through the blue exit portal with my next mission on my mind. I'll be handing in my quests back at the bar. Chapter 339. I walk out from the dungeon hub square, and the early morning sun shines down on Solara. The guard outside gives me a nod, followed by a weird look as he doesn't recognize me. It's not unusual for hunters to stay overnight in dungeons. It's easy to assume I entered when he wasn't on his shift. He shrugs and continues on with his day. With this, I look out at the city with a brand new disguise but still keep my red hood covering my face. My muscles are pretty sore, but I manage to still walk down the streets at a moderate pace without signs of any limp or slowness. If I were to jump back into battle right now, it would be a bit more painful, but I'd be able to fight at 90% power without much problem. Although I may feel a bit better, it doesn't mean I'm not exhausted for the time being. I drink some water and leftover food in my item storage on the way. Perks me up a bit. Minutes later, I walk through the front doors of the bar and see the same middle-aged bartender talking to a few lower-level hunters at the side table he mentioned to me a few days back. The bar, once crowded with almost 100 hunters and tables full of multicolored cocktails and drinks with flashing lights and full of laughs, is now completely empty. As I walk closer, the man and woman turn away from the bartender at the side tables with a few handfuls of silver each and smiles across their faces as they pass me. A voice sounds out in the calmness of the morning. "I recognize that quality of red cloak you've got there, son. You're the hunter that wanted to make his way to Valor City a few days back. I knew you were just messing with me when you said you'd show back up the next day with all the quests completed." He lets out a chuckle, and I play along while reaching under my cloak to grab the quest papers. "Yeah, something came up. However, I do have them all completed for you now. 3 days wasted is still better than taking the train." I smirk and place the pile of papers onto the counter. His eyes widen with surprise, then tighten with suspicion. The battle-seasoned bartender sifts through each of the papers one by one, reading them and doing math in his head. "Yeah, right. These are quests for thousands of the highest-tier beasts in the city. It would take a team of our best fighters months to finish all these. There's no way dash." Thud. I begin pulling out the Minotaur horns first, stacking the black and red shimmering high-grade items in a pile on the bar's wooden floor. It begins to creak under the pressure, and my thin smile grows the longer he's left speechless. The man keeps his mouth open in shock, but doesn't say a word until I turn and start pulling out piles of rat claws and turtle shells next. I can hear wood splintering under the weight, and he puts his hands up. Hold on a moment. Let me get some item boxes from the back. We can store and count these for you in a moment. The bartender runs into a back room and comes out a few minutes later with a handful of small item boxes along with a kid no more than 16 years old wearing an apron. The dishwasher came out to help with the extra work. We begin going through every quest from top to bottom. The highest paying ones like the Minotaur horns and bulk mana crystals pay out a few dozen gold each, while the middle-ranged quests pay tens of silver to a few gold coins, and lastly, some smaller ones are just a few silver. Both the bartender and the dishwasher can't believe their eyes as I continue pulling more and more items from my cloak to match with every single quest paper. It takes over 2 hours to sort and count everything, but finally, I'm given a total for everything by the man. That's the final one right there. Your total after the 2% Solara government tax on large payouts is 138 gold and 42 silver. I nod, and the corner of my lips curls up as he starts stacking gold out from a silver safe with the Solaran government logo on it. This brings my total gold to just about 150, counting the leftover I had stored away from previous quests and missions back in the Vice region. It's over halfway up to where I was before spending it all on those soul stones. This time around, there's no emergency, so I'll be sure to save and spend it wisely after purchasing the transport crystal. Also, the fact that I'm capable of clearing out the quests in any city I go to and make 100 gold a day if I please fills me with confidence. Maybe I'll do the same at the capital in Sector 1. Great. Which way is the Solaran government office? I grab stacks of the coins and put them under my cloak and into my storage as the man responds, giving me directions. With that, I turn around and raise a hand in the air to wave. Appreciate it. Maybe I'll come back soon for some more quests. Then I walk out the door. Both the bartender and the dishwasher lean back against the wall with looks of awe, but also nervousness on their faces. I hear the kid speak under his breath as I turn the corner. Hey boss, that was all the high-grade quests the capital had to offer this month. The hunters aren't going to be happy about this. Who is that guy? He replies, but I only hear his last remark. Doesn't matter. Whoever hands in the quests will get the same commission. It's better not to question the actions of a man who can pull something like this off in just 3 days. I smirk and chuckle to myself. If only they knew I finished everything in a matter of hours. If there's any backlash from me clearing all these quests, I'll be out of here before they even catch wind of it. Considering all the trouble this city has brought me, I hope I leave them with a little chaos. With a single coin being twirled around my fingers, I finally make it to the government office and walk up the long rows of marble steps before walking through the front blue glass doors that slide open. Chatter fills my senses as I'm met with the blinding whiteness of mana shielding on the floor and walls. City folk stand in lines behind 4 separate workers sat behind a curved white marble counter at the back of the room to look like a semicircle. Each worker has a small booth with the same clear blue glass as the door, covering their upper bodies above the counter. Upon closer inspection, it's filled with mana too, similar to the walls, ceiling, and floor. Everything is protected by shielding in this office. Ding! A green light pops up above one of the booths and a line moves forward. Once someone steps up to be helped, it changes to red just like the other 3. I cross my arms and wait my turn. How can I help you today, sir? After less than 10 minutes of waiting, a young woman greets me at her booth with a smile. I reply, I'd like to purchase a transport crystal to Sector 1. Valor City to be exact. Her eyes widen. Then her mouth opens but no words come out. She swallows, raises a finger, then looks down at a small silver tablet before tapping it a few times and looking up at me again. Of course, it's not every day someone comes here to buy one, but we still have a few left in stock. Usually, people just take the train. She looks down at her silver tablet and taps it a few more times before turning it to me to show bold black numbers. The current going price is 24 gold and 11 silver. I reach into my storage and place the requested amount on the white marble table without hesitating for a moment. That's perfect. I'll take one. Chapter 340. The woman behind the counter takes my coins, then walks into a back room before finally coming back with a small white concealment case. She opens it up for a moment just to show the white crystal inside, before closing it quickly and pressing a small button on her workstation beneath the counter. A portion of the blue glass window slides open, and she pushes the rectangular case through. As I grab it, she speaks to me. "I'm sure you know how these work. You don't need an explanation, do you?" I nod while accepting the box, remembering back to the crystal I used after defeating the behemoth in the Vice City Labyrinth a while back. It transported me beneath the Association building right before we headed off as a team to the Dark Continent. Of course, it's a one-time use transport spell. I just break the crystal and I'll be teleported to Valor City. Right? She smiles and nods with a sparkle in her eye. Yes, exactly that. You'll be sent to a teleport platform right outside. Valor City is the city of commerce, so keep an eye on your coins at all times. Those without them very seldom leave. Though, I don't think I have to tell someone like you that twice. She gives me a thin smile, and I give one back with a quick nod. However, the atmosphere slightly shifts, and a hint of sorrow shows in her eyes. Then, she gives another bright smile just like when I entered, making me question if I imagined her brief change of tone. "Anyway, is there anything else we can help you with today, sir?" I open my mouth to ask what she meant by that, but decide to brush it off. Keeping track of your money is good advice for anyone. This is all I need, thanks. Have a good rest of your day. I turn and walk out the door I came, then begin making my way down the marble steps. The morning sun is about to come directly overhead to mark the middle of the day as I step into a less crowded street and take out the white concealment case. Well, there's no reason not to go right now. I've waited long enough. After taking a deep breath in and out, the concealment container pops open with a light click, and I waste no time in taking out the crystals and crushing them in my fist. A white light takes over my body, and I feel weightless for a fraction of a second before my boots squeak against a glossy tile floor. The desolate desert city street around me fades, and the chatter of what sounds like a crowded train station fills my ears. Once my vision comes back to me, that's exactly what I see. Looking down, I'm standing on a large circular tiled surface about 10 meters in diameter, with a large white sign above me on the wall, just behind my head, labeled Teleport Platform. In front of me, a subway system is moving like any normal city would. Everyone is dressed in much darker clothing here. The red cloak I wear sticks out like a sore thumb. My darker complexion also doesn't match the majority of much lighter skin tones of the locals here. My gaze travels over everyone, and I quickly change my appearance to match the average person in the crowd before taking my hood down. I slowly step off the raised platform and walk through the crowd. As I do, a small transport train pulls up, similar to ones used in the Vice region. Its brakes screech to a halt, and a flash of white light appears behind me as another man appears on the transport platform right where I left. A long moving staircase is visible off to my right about 30 meters away, and that seems to be where everyone getting off this train is moving to. I follow the crowd and ride it upward. The blue sky of the outside world comes into view as I step off the top of the escalator and breathe in the crisp and cold air while taking in my surroundings. There are small shops that line the streets, selling all kinds of items. Not just hunting gear, but home appliances, food, and even children's toys and personal gadgets. Everyone that gets off the train below begins heading off in all directions, but again, most head primarily one way. I scan the streets one more time before deciding to follow the crowd. The sidewalks are hard, and the smell of food from nearby shops fills the air. People of all backgrounds line the streets. Some are beggars, others are busy salarymen, and a couple stand outside shops yelling out deals while holding up signs to try and get people to come inside. Most of the storefronts rise up 1 or 2 floors at most, and some even have apartments above them. Off in the distance, I see a few complexes rising up to 4 or 5 stories, but nothing is close to the high rises in Solara. I murmur under my breath. Is this really what they call the city of commerce? It's hardly even as impressive as my hometown back in the Vice region. It's definitely interesting, but not what I expected to see from the so-called strongest and richest city in the Dark Continent. Still, I enjoy my time and stroll the streets, enjoying the sight of a new city. The crowds from the station start to disperse more and more to the point where I'm not quite sure who came off it and who is a native citygoer here. I decide to fit in as well and drop into a hunter's clothing store that looks to be my style. Although I could use my conceal skill to make a disguise myself, I'd rather not constantly think about and use up mana on something I could just buy cheaply at a store. Keeping my face concealed is more than enough of a mental drain. I'm greeted by a kind old man at the back of the shop with a wave as I walk in the door and begin browsing their selection. However, I'm soon disappointed by none of the items surpassing 20 to 30% buffs even in their most expensive sections of the shop. This seems apparent on my face. The man who greeted me speaks up again. Is there anything in specific you're looking for, sir? You seem to be from out of town. That cloak is of incredible quality. I can see from here you may need to go into the city to find what you're looking for. I turn to him and raise an eyebrow. If it's that obvious I'm not from around here, then yes, I'm looking for something to substitute for this gear. But dash. He finishes my sentence before I even realize it. But none of my items stand up to the buffs given by your current ones, it seems. He gives me a sly smile. Well, if you're just looking to fit in for the time being, I have something that may suit your fancy. He shuffles under his desk counter, and I walk over out of curiosity. This old man knows exactly the situation I'm in from a single glance, so whatever he has to offer must be worth a look. He places a small silver ring on the counter, and I immediately use my appraisal skill to see what it is. Silver ring of appearance V16, 72 to 72. My eyebrows scrunch and I don't know what to make of it. The old man speaks again. You've never seen one before. You really are new to town, aren't you? I nod, but he continues. Now before you complain about wasting an item slot on your status, I assure you this doesn't count as an active item. It's already infused with all the mana necessary to do its job. He slips the ring on his finger, and his entire appearance shifts. The old man's outfit changes to a long black classy coat and formal pants and shoes to match. It looks just like what the businessmen in the crowds outside are wearing. My smile widens and I reply, a one-time use concealment item. I think back to the time I wore contact lenses similar to what this ring does, but the fact that it's already infused with mana is another thing that catches my attention. And you said it doesn't count as an active item? It's already infused with mana? He takes off the ring and places it back on the counter. That's right. This model lasts 72 hours, and it comes in 20 different versions. This one is version 16. He smiles wide while pulling up a case of identical rings from beneath the counter. Feel free to try as many on as you'd like. Just don't wear them too long. I don't want future customers to have too much time missing. They're just a silver each, by the way. I nod while picking up the ring he just took off and sliding it on a finger. Nothing changes at all in my eyes, and when I check my status, nothing pops up at all. I move over to the closest mirror, and sure enough, the same black coat and outfit is on me now, fitted perfectly. However, less than a minute goes by before the 72 out of 72 on the ring ticks down to 71 out of 72. I let out a sigh as I realize this is the customer copy he shows everyone. I roll my eyes, but then smirk as an idea pops into my head. Using my mana manipulation skill, I infuse a few dozen MP into the ring, and the bar turns back up to 72 of 72. I let out a chuckle and think to myself, it looks like I don't have to buy more than one after all. I reach into my storage and put a single silver coin on the counter. I'll take this one. That's all I think I'll need for my time here in Valor City. He quickly takes the coin off the counter but looks up to me with a concerned impression. You're really going up to the city? What business do you have there? I look back at him with an equally confused and concerned look. I thought I was already here?